Liberty Mutual has savings for all. Mary had a little something.
Hey, Meta, play my gallery music.
Hey, Meta, tell me about
biggest money mistakes do you see people making?
The first mistake is actually believing that your business is your wealth. I believe that a personal brand, if we're not careful, becomes a personal burden. You have productive debt and you have destructive debt. Destructive debt is for consumables, but there is productive debt. It is debt that if you don't enjoy the path to financial freedom, you will not enjoy the destination of it. In a ever-changing environment, whether it's technology, AI, or if I want to get paid more, skill up. 10,000 millionaires. 79% of them were first-generation millionaires. This idea of leverage is something I talk in the book. It's called the 5 incomes. It starts at the active level, but the money machine's the top 3.
Many content creators and business owners are making broke money mistakes. And today on the Think Media podcast, we're going to be talking about how to earn more, stress less, and reach financial freedom faster. My guest today is Mel Abraham, who's a best-selling author, CPA, entrepreneur. He's built and sold multiple different businesses. He advises all kinds of top experts, and he has worked with and spoke on the same stages of people like Brennan Burchard, Ed Milet, Amy Porterfield, Tony Robbins, Chalene Johnson. And in his new book, Building Your Money Machine, he really talks about how to get your money working harder for you. And this applies if you are working your day job right now, building a side hustle, and you want better money wisdom, whether you're having some success with your small business, with your personal brand, with your online business, and you want to be more intelligent. I think that this is going to be packed with all kinds of powerful insights that you can apply immediately. So Mel, welcome to the show.
Oh, Sean, man, it's so good to be here and get a chance to share some time with you, my friend.
Yes, I am glad we've known each other for a couple years and love the impact and the work you're doing. But let's just dive straight in with my starting question. What are some of just the biggest mistakes, specifically when you work with personal brands, entrepreneurs, business owners, other creators, people that are creating content like yourself, podcasters, speaking on stages, maybe just in your circle, in your network with those types of individuals, what are the biggest money mistakes you see people making?
Yeah, I think the biggest and the first mistake is actually believing that your business is your wealth. That the work that we do is enough. And here's the thing. I believe that a personal brand, if we're not careful, becomes a personal burden. And this happened with me. The fact is that if you're not on the treadmill running the stuff, then you have no income coming in, which means that you have no freedom. You're tied to it. And then you hear other people will say, well, you need multiple streams of income. So what do you mean? Multiple treadmills? Now I got to run on more than one treadmill? The challenge is this. Our business historically was never really meant to give us freedom. It wasn't really meant to build wealth. It was to be our wealth. What it was meant to do is to have an impact, to create a service, a product that served a need, to generate cash flow. That's it. And so the key then is, what do we do with, and I call that the earnings journey, whether you're in a job or whether you're in a business. We all were told, make money, get a good career, a professional path, a good business. But otherwise, you got to make money. But then there's this second journey that I call the money journey. And that money journey is what we do with the cash flow. It is where we find our freedom. It is where we find the things that actually matter to us to have a life of choice. It's where we optimize time and we optimize assets so we can optimize and create the legacy and live the legacy, not leave the legacy that we want. And so most business owners or most individuals have to think along those parallel tracks, but we don't. And I made that mistake and learned and figured out, oh, wait a second, unless I can disconnect my earnings from the efforts to earn it, I will always be held ransom by the treadmill of earnings.
Such a powerful insight. I am absolutely guilty of that. I think that I have lived under the delusion that if I work harder and just keep pedaling faster, or I've gotten many plates spinning. And, at Fake Media here, one of the things we love about YouTube is there's a level of passive income and an asset you can create in what we would call a ranked video. I've got videos that are 10 years old that are still getting views, traffic, generating leads, affiliate income. And so there's some leverage to that. But, the side that I've been missing out on is really what you talk about in Building Your Money Machine, the book, is not just thinking about the cash flow side, but starting to put your money to work for you through investing. And I'm excited to explore all those. But I do want to hear a little bit about your story, because you sort of had a wake-up call. And if you hadn't had a money machine, it could have been devastating. What happened with your life with health that kind of was a big aha moment in regards to this?
Yeah. So in 2019, now let's go back for a moment. How did I even come across this? Back a lot of years, when my son was 5.5, I became a single full-time dad. And I literally was doing what I thought I was supposed to do, earn, until he drew a picture of me. And he came home from school and says, "Daddy, I drew a picture of you to school today." And I kneeled down, and it's a picture of me in front of 2 computer screens and a phone in each ear and one on the desk ring. And so, like, at the hands of a 6-year-old, I got a mirror into my soul. And the most important job I had, I was messing up. And that was the aha that triggered this concept of the money machine. So at the hands of a 6-year-old, I kind of started to figure this out and say, how do I do this? But in 2019, everything was great. The life was good. I'm flying around. I'm speaking. I'm doing the things that I want to do. I live on the beach, and amazing wife. And then I hear a doctor who, I was in the doctor's office, and they look at me and they said, "We found a 5-centimeter tumor in your bladder, and you have cancer." And like, in a moment, I'm not a smoker. I'm not a drinker. I'm not a candidate. Not that anyone should be a candidate for it. But my life got turned upside down. And he looked at me and says, "Here's the thing. It's on top of the prostate, which means that we might have to take the prostate out. I can't see the urine on the right side. We might have to put a tube and a bag in for the kidney. And if it's bad, you could lose your bladder." So, I mean, like everything, and he says, and it's cancer. So life's on the line. And so the thing that I knew is that everything changed. In that moment, I had one solitary focus, because people say, "Yeah, I bet it got you your priorities straight." Yeah, at that moment, there was one priority. It was life. It was living. But here's the thing, is I said, I looked at my son who was there, my wife was there, and I said, "We're shutting everything down. I'm not gonna travel. We'll shut the businesses down, and I'm gonna be 100% all in to beat this demon, to go after it." And the gift was, if the money machine was born out of being a single full-time dad with Jeremy at 6, the importance was given to me by cancer, because what it allowed me to do was to shut things down and allow the machine to generate the cash flow to allow Stephanie and I to continue to live our life, so I could fight the cancer physically, mentally, medically, psychologically, all of it, but I didn't have to fight it financially. That allowed me the ability to have the choice of the doctors, the blessing to be able to say, I'm going to Eastern medicine, Western medicine, holistic work, anything I could do. And my job became surviving. My job became beating this in every way possible. I don't know if I had to work for a living during the day and fight for my life during the night. I don't know how it would have gone.
That's such a powerful story. And what was the result in regards to the cancer?
For me, well, so the short story is, in fact, as of recording this, in 2 weeks, I go in for another scan, and that will mark almost 4.5 years clear. I mean, I had 3 surgeries, 4 tumors, and 77 treatments. The cancer came back once during that time, and but I will be, 4.5 years clear.
Wow. And I'm sure people are wondering, we're going to unpack it throughout the episode, but when you say you had the money machine working for you, which 100% of people listening to this either personally are dealing with health challenges or they know someone who is. And I think they can look ahead and imagine a dream, and perhaps this very podcast is a wake-up call to consider, as hard as this can seem, with especially in the economy right now, sometimes inflation and just having enough to cover overhead, and some business owners feeling how tight everything can be, and payroll and other things. But to have more than enough to invest, it was investments that were your money machine. Is that what were the cash flowing vehicles, or rather you're living off interest or dividends, or what were kind of like the big generators for you so that you could make it your full-time job to focus on your health?
Yeah, so that's the key. So you hear the term passive income tossed around, and I don't like that term. I choose not to use it. I use the term leveraged income. And why I say that is that I think that our relationship with money and wealth is just that. It's a relationship. And you've been married for a while, and I've been married for a while. And if we took a passive approach to our relationship with our wives, we wouldn't be married long. And so I never want anyone to think about their money as they set it, forget it. I don't ever have to look at it again. I want you to always be involved and engaged, but there's levels of it. You know, when you're in your job, or you're a solopreneur, or your personal brand, you're intimately involved. The relationship between, remember, the efforts and the earnings, the relationship between the efforts and earnings is much more a one-on-one relationship. So I was looking at it after Jeremy drew the picture, saying, how do I find ways to change that relationship so it's no longer one-on-one? And it's this idea of leverage is something I talk in the book. It's called the 5 incomes. And it starts at the active level, which is one-on-one, it's solopreneur, it's personal brand, it's one-on-one effort. Above that, which is, I think media is doing some of this too, is that you have a business, or you have leveraged it because you have team, or you have people helping at the house. You use the money to get some of your time back. But those bottom 2 rungs of the 5 incomes still require a lot of you and a lot of me. And I make money from both of those. But the money machine is the top 3. The next leverage point, the next ability to leverage is what we call asset-based income. And this is real estate. People will think about real estate, equipment. You know, I've got clients that they rent camera jibs to the studios. They rent transportation equipment to the studios. They buy stuff and they're able to rent it. It's hard assets that you can do. The next level up is residual income. This is things like your YouTube channel, that kind of thing, a downline. It could be my book, or things that you white label or license. So now it takes less time to generate the income, but it takes time to set it up, get it in place, but then it runs. And then the last, the highest level is portfolio. Stocks, bonds, ETFs, index funds, those kinds of investments. And so what I had was a machine that was built on the top 3. And what I want for people is to start to look at their life and say, how do I create a machine that the cash flow from the top 3, asset, residual, and portfolio, will cover 80% or more of my life? And so now, it doesn't mean you do it in linear. So some people say, I got to get assets first. No. There's a different sequence to it, but I look at those top 3 and say, let's look at your lifestyle. In my case, I don't own directly a lot of real estate because I don't want to be a landlord. Mm-hmm. But I still have some real estate exposure. So I make money from real estate, residual, and portfolio. The lion's share of the income is from the portfolio side and the residual side. So when it came down to shutting things down so I could survive, I literally just said to my wealth team, I said, the money that the machine is generating, instead of reinvesting it, send it to me. And now we're living off of those top 3. And the machine still grew during that time. We weren't shrinking it down. We weren't selling things. But the bottom 2, active in business, were shut down. And then when I started to come back out of it, I said, okay, shut the machine down. Let's get the bottom 2 running again and let it grow. And so it is driven by those top 3. How do I make money from assets, residual, and portfolio.
That was a masterclass right there. The 5 levels of income. And that is encouraging that it doesn't have to be linear, that even YouTube this particular podcast is unique because I do think about like a ranked YouTube video that talks about products, that sends people even Amazon. Amazon Prime Day just happened, and we just earned around $4,500 with some active things we did as well, some live streams, email promotions, and some other things. But a lot of it's from ranked videos that are year 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years old, and that stuff would go down over time. 10 years from now, cameras have changed, things have changed. But I do think about that a lot. That's why I love. It's interesting that you get to kind of like hopscotch ahead to residual in some ways, and even the asset based. I know people could do Turo and they maybe rent out certain cars, and it is sort of a real estate play to have an Airbnb, and you start getting to other things because you own an asset, and then it also you can rent that out, renting equipment. Man, so many powerful insights. Well, I have a lot of more kind of financial questions, but I do want to play a game with you right here, kind of in the middle of the podcast, called Right or Wrong Money Advice. Do you agree or disagree with some of the most popular and maybe controversial opinions of the financial gurus out there in the world? Here's number 1. Susie Orman says, don't buy coffee, extreme thrift, frugal lifestyle. The question is, should people deprive themselves of almost all pleasures to achieve financial security?
Absolutely not. I mean, here's the thing. I believe that if you don't enjoy the path to financial freedom, you will not enjoy the destination of it. The mistake that we make is this. Now, wealth creation is less about money and more about behaviors, habits, and decisions. And I know people will go, well, wait a second, because I tell people, you don't have money problems, you have money symptoms. You have symptoms of the decisions in the past, which means that you have control. So here's what I think we all should be doing. We always start, when we start doing money, in fact, the book starts this way. Define your life. What is it you want? What is it that's meaningful? And if you're in a committed relationship, intimate relationship, you do this together. You create a life together, and you allow that dream to set the plan based on the price tag you came up with. Then it sets the strategy, then it sets the tactics, and then it sets the action. But in the plan, we always look for 2 to 4 joy points of life. My wife and I love to travel. So in the plan, it's embedded in there. It's planned for it. It is something that we strive for. Because if we don't have joy along the journey, we're going to have a problem. Now, what that also does is then allow us to look at the plan and the vision and avoid temptation. When we talk about coffee as one of these things, I think sometimes we look at it and say, we're submitting to momentary pleasures instead of sustainable joys. I want sustainable joys. Now, we can have the momentary pleasures if we have the finances to make it happen. But I want to avoid the momentary pleasures if they're not in the plan and I don't have the margin to allow for it. But that doesn't mean, I just don't think that you'll never live a rich life through deprivation. So if you're sitting back and saying, well, I want to afford this, I can't afford it right now, then let's get a plan in place and behaviors and choices to make it a reality, bring the joy points in your life, and continue the journey.
Incredible. All right. Dave Ramsey says, cut up your credit cards, get out of debt as quick as possible, and avoid debt at all costs. Right or wrong?
Wrong. And here's why. Here's why I think it's wrong. First things first, I don't believe all debt's the devil. But I also know that all debt has 2 personality traits. So you have productive debt and you have destructive debt. Destructive debt is for consumables. It is living beyond your means. It is the luxury stuff that you can't afford. Okay? I agree with Dave on that. But there is productive debt. It is debt that is going to allow you to generate additional cash flow or to build net worth. It could be debt that it could be Facebook ads or Google ads that you put on a credit card that you're going to get a multiple back on. That's good debt if managed properly. But the two characteristics that all debt has is that all debt costs. Interest is a cost. Good debt, bad debt, productive debt, destructive debt, it still costs. The second is all debt stresses. It stresses us financially, but it also stresses us psychologically. And so we need to manage it properly to make that happen. Now, there's a third thing with this. And why do I say this? I think that debt and debt management is if it's a behavior, it's a different muscle group than wealth creation. One is I'm digging out of a hole and I'm trying to get myself ballast. The other is one of creation and building. And so I want you to exercise both muscle groups at the same time. I want you to sit back and say, now, mathematically, it will take longer to get out of debt by doing this, but at the same time, it's creating the behaviors you need to build wealth sooner. And even if you're putting money away and you say, I have $500 to put away for debt, and I took $490 of it against the debt and $10 towards wealth, we're still exercising the muscle.
Going a little bit deeper, Dave's story was over leveraging. And so you could call it productive debt because he was productively expanding his real estate portfolio to $1, $2, $3 million, and then the notes got called. You've been in the game a long time, and you've seen entrepreneurs who are very driven, aggressive, probably oftentimes thinking they're wise, but maybe really going for it. Do you think that people, even with productive debt, go too far? And have you witnessed people that got over leveraged? Or you're right, Facebook ads, getting a multiple could be a good return, unless of course they don't. And now you had some things wrong with the campaign and you didn't just do a small test. You maybe played too big and now you have a big setback. What have you learned about maybe the DNA of an entrepreneur that could justify it with productive, but maybe is too aggressive and steps into being unwise?
So I totally agree with you, and I've seen it over and over again. You can way over leverage, or you can be overly optimistic. So I hear people say, well, entrepreneurs, they're risk takers. I actually don't believe that. They're not risk takers. They're strategic risk mitigators. They're people that look at things and say, what's the probabilities of success? And then the right ones, what I think we should be doing is a couple things. I look at things first and this might be my CPA background, safety first. Let's create a unshakable financial foundation. Safety first, growth second. So if I'm looking at an investment or I'm looking whether it's a piece of real estate, like, and this is a real example, my son, Jeremy, you know him, they were looking at a property a number of years ago, and he was looking at it from an Airbnb perspective. And I said, great. You want to buy that property. I get it. See if the numbers work out as an Airbnb. Now, assume that city council one day decides no Airbnbs, no short-term rentals. Look at the numbers again from a long-term rental standpoint. Great. Does it work out? If it doesn't, then we have something to discuss. If it does, then the third thing I want you to do is I want you to look at it and say, does it work out from a flip standpoint and a carry standpoint? What I want you to do is so when you get over leveraged, a lot of times what happens is that we do not actually give ourselves margin for error. We don't believe that it's ever going to go down. We don't believe that the negatives will happen. I actually want to do worst case planning. I want to look at it and say, what's the worst case scenario, and can I sustain myself if that happens? And now I'll move into it. And in fact, even with investments, so people say, you know, when you look at investment, I said, actually, what you want to do is know your exit from the investment before you ever do the entrance. So you know how you're going to get out before you ever get in.
I told you, I Think Media Podcast is going to be a valuable episode, and that strategic risk mitigators are really what the best entrepreneurs are. All right, a few more of our game show, right or wrong, agree or disagree with this financial advice. Here's one that you maybe didn't see coming. Bernie Sanders says, because of income inequality, there should be wealth redistribution. Do you think, speaking to the United States here, we need universal basic income?
Trying not to get political? No, I don't. I think that what we need is actually financial literacy education. We should be starting with our youth. Think about this. I've got a kid who joined one of my programs at 16 and a half. At 17, he says, I got a job. What do I do? I said, open a Roth IRA. Literally 45 days, 60 days ago, we're on another call, and he says, I funded my Roth IRA. What do I do? I said, you're 17 still? He says, no, I just turned 18. I said, great. How much did you fund it with? He says, I'm thinking, he's 18. What do you do, $500? He says, I fully funded 2023, and I already funded 2024. I said, hold on a second. You're 18 years old. You're telling me you put $6,500 away for 2023 and $7,000 for 2024. And he said, yeah, I'm living at home. I don't have expenses. All right, cool. And I said, let me do some math for you. At 18 years old, every dollar you put away, if we just put it in an S&P 500 fund, assuming average returns over the time frame, by the time you're 65, it will go up 107 times. So you're already a millionaire. You don't have to do anything other than avoid stupid. And the thing is that we are not. There may be an income inequality that we need to deal with, a wage gap and those things that we need to deal with. And that is also we can talk about the value equation. I think that is there. But from a wealth creation standpoint, we can actually school up, teach our youth the tools that they need, because the more time they have, the less money they need, because it does all the work for them. But I look at our youth and say, if we get a hold of them in high school and we start to teach them delayed gratification, balance with the joy points, not as susceptible to peer pressure and social media buying and all that stuff, give them the tools, let them see the power, that we won't have financial problems in our country, but we don't talk about it. And I think that's where we need to start. Because if all we did, let's say we did this and we say, hey, let's redistribute wealth. But we didn't equip them to do anything right with it. So we'll lose it again. It's just like the lottery winner that goes broke again.
That's a big one right there. And I think about my public school education through elementary and middle and high school. You're already a millionaire is the quote that stood out to me. Maxing out your Roth IRA at 16, 17, 18, just playing that out. Massive insight, but I never learned any basics in terms of checking, let alone and money management, let alone investing. And so, okay, a couple more. I do want to encourage listeners, though, that the book is called Building Your Money Machine. And so, as you can see, there's already so much gold in this conversation. And getting your financial literacy and your money education right is huge. And I do think that, one, I know we're hustling, trying to build our side businesses, our creator businesses. So you might be like, I'm just trying to get enough to get it going. But I've noticed that, especially we just studied today, we have 20 billion views generated for our Video Ranking Academy students. Those numbers continue to climb. A lot of people we've helped have gone from struggling to success, and now they're trying to figure out what to do. Like, how do I manage my money well? I want to encourage you can check out the show notes, grab a copy of the book, because getting your financial education dialed in is one of the most important decisions that any of us could make. And I'm super grateful for everything you've done here. Right or wrong, financial advice. Elon Musk is very bullish on crypto and even kind of has the sentiment that cryptocurrency is the future of money. Do you agree with that?
This episode is brought to you by StreamYard. StreamYard is our go-to platform here at Think Media for live streaming to Facebook and YouTube and for recording our video podcast. It has an incredibly easy-to-use interface for built-in branding, transitions, text lower thirds, and seamlessly bringing on guests. And they just added an awesome new feature called local recording. This allows you to take the quality to another level by separating out your audio and video from your guests, giving you more control over your content for later use. This feature is perfect for video and podcast creators. And so to get a special deal on StreamYard right now and to see all the features that are included, just go to streamwiththink.com. That is streamwiththink.com.
Elon Musk is very bullish on crypto and even kind of has the sentiment that cryptocurrency is the future of money. Do you agree with that?
No, I don't. Well, the future of money, I don't know yet. So that the jury's still out. Here's my problem with crypto. And I'll get hate for this, but what the heck? Tell me what the utility is beyond the blockchain. Okay? If I invest in Tesla, it's got a business model. It's got income streams. It's got growth. It's got assets. It's got intangible assets. I'm investing in something. What drives the value of crypto, of, say, Bitcoin? What drives the value of it going up? The only thing that drives the value is someone else buying it and the demand for it. So in order for me to make money on crypto, I need to find someone else that's willing to buy it for more. And so it is the classic definition of a pyramid scheme. And if you look at the volatility of it, it is highly volatile. It is no different than what they're doing with GameStop and running it up. Talk it up, it goes up because of artificial demand, but there isn't a business model behind it to drive cash flow and earnings. And the only way you make money is that you got to sell at the top. And so that's where I start to have the problem with it. Now, if it becomes broadly accepted and everything, we may have ourselves a currency. Now, here's the other challenge with crypto that a lot of people I don't think realize. The way it is seen in the US as an asset, every transaction creates a taxable transaction, which gives a ton of friction to it. So imagine this. You go to Starbucks and they say you can pay with Bitcoin. Now you're going to pay $7 for their, caffeinated, sugar-aided, all that stuff, for the big thing with the whipped cream, and you pay $7 in Bitcoin. What that created was you did a $7 transaction at Starbucks, but now you had to convert the Bitcoin. So now you got to look at the $7 worth of Bitcoin. How much did you buy it for? Maybe you bought it for $4. If you bought it for $4, now you have a $3 gain you have to put on your tax return. The friction of using it becomes problematic. And so until those things get solved, I don't spend a lot of time with it.
Gary Vaynerchuk is known for just saying work harder and hustle. When it comes to right or wrong money advice, is just grinding it out, working 14, 16, 18-hour days the solution? Yes or no?
No, I don't think so. I think that we have to find something, because we're not talking about the bank account. In fact, my book starts with life, then money, and then ends with life, because it has to be attached to life. If all life was working 10, 16 hours a day for the rest of our lives, where's the joy in that? Now, doing things we love, and I understand that, but I think that the underlying premise of it is having the right work ethic, the discipline, and the behavior to do the hard things so you can get the things that you deserve. But even then, there's plenty of people that work really hard, make a lot of money, but if they're spending too much, they don't have the skills, they don't build wealth, they have no freedom, and they have no choice in life. They're driven, instead of by choice, they're driven by the daily demands or their expenses that they have to get paid.
Okay, two more. Grant Cardone says put all of your extra money in real estate, and is known for saying, I go broke. The power broke, and I make as much money as I can with my active income, and I put it all in real estate. Do you agree with that?
I love real estate, but I don't love real estate as the first play. And here's why. Because if I accumulate, let's say I accumulate $10,000. Remember, safety first, growth second. If I accumulate $10,000, I might be able to put it in one deal or one property. And I had this happen with a friend where they bought a building. And then they needed to do some remodeling in the building. The contractor comes in, they look at it and they say, there's asbestos up here. You need to have all the tenants move out. And it's $150,000 to remediate it and fix it. And once we do it, then we can do the other stuff, and then you can get it re-rented. And the problem I see with real estate is that if we do a bad deal at the beginning and we don't have the finances and the liquidity to carry the deal from a bad tenant, a tenant that doesn't pay, an eviction has to go through, a repair that was unplanned, then we could destroy ourselves financially. So at the beginning, I want to mix, but I want to have the liquidity and I want to have a diversified portfolio that allows me to carry it. Then when I have critical mass, then we can talk about real estate, because if that happens, I have the ability to carry it. And so that's kind of how I look at it. And the other reason for it is that, let's say I only had $1,000. I can get into the investing game with index funds and ETFs with a couple $100, with $1,000. It's hard to get into real estate at that level. And so I don't want to delay you. I want to get you in the game.
Do you like dividend stocks?
I do. But I don't invest solely for dividend stocks. I invest for overall return. So I make a fair amount of money on dividends and interest, so it's cash flowing. But at the same time, I'm not creating a specific portfolio for it. I want to look at what's the overall return. When I say overall return, that means what's the dividends I get out of it, plus what's the growth in the stock. So I'm going to invest for overall returns, and I know that dividends will come along with it. And in fact, any dividends I usually reinvest anyways right now to continue to build the machine.
Okay, one more and then a few more questions for you, but this has been a fun game show. I'm curious if you watch the podcast on YouTube. Let us know in the comments your thoughts on these different financial perspectives. And if you listen on audio, you can always visit us. You can't comment on audio, so you can always visit us on YouTube. But here's what Peter Schiff says: buy physical gold as a store of value, as a hedge against economic uncertainty. Are you all in on physical gold? You agree with him?
I agree with having it as a piece of the portfolio. I don't hold a ton of gold, but it's a ballast. It's an offset. And unless you actually believe that we're going to hell in a handbasket, then you, just like any asset class, I'm not going to be overly concentrated in one particular asset class, because of the risk of it going down. That was I don't remember the name of the brothers. They started to corner the market on silver and everything. And at one point, and then the silver tanked, and they lost a ton of money. The lack of diversification, if we go all into something, no matter whether it's real estate in a specific arena or area, a specific stock or specific material or precious metal, we take on risk, and I don't want to do that. So I'm going to mitigate the risk. That means that I might leave some money on the table if it goes to the moon, but I will keep some money on the table if it goes to the core of the earth.
The Hunt brothers cornered the silver market from a price of a skyrocket from $2 an ounce to over $50 an ounce. This was back in like 1970s kind of era. Interesting. Would you rather right now, would you rather have $100,000 in gold or $100,000 in Bitcoin right now?
I'd take gold.
Awesome. Okay, a couple more questions as we land the plane. We're talking to Mel, author of Building Your Money Machine, and it's been such a fun conversation. It makes me think about, meeting with Sonia, and we talk about this stuff a lot, but applying the lessons that we're learning. There's this big idea, right, where people want to become a millionaire. TikTok, everyone's talking about how to become a millionaire. What's interesting, too, is that the word millionaire is not what it once meant in terms of inflation and other things like that. But my question is it true that to be a millionaire, you need to inherit the money or you need to inherit a business?
No, it's not. So there's a study which Dave Ramsey Solutions did, 10,000 millionaires. 79% of them were first-generation millionaires. 8 out of 10. Pretty daggone good odds. That means that they created it in their lifetime. It wasn't inherited, it wasn't gifted, and it wasn't won. And so it's about, and here's the other stat I think that really makes this study really important. 31% of them never made much more than $100,000 a year. And so it isn't the amount of money they made. It's what they did with the money that mattered. And so when you look at it, I think that you look at it and say, hey, you can do it no matter. Now it may take some time. It depends on how large of an income shovel you have, but it is not impossible. I think where we start to slow down is most of us think that our journey to wealth is a linear one, and it's not. It's an exponential one. Think about, if I want to make $1 million, let's say I'm going to put $10,000 a year away at 8%. Okay. The first $100,000 is always the hardest because you don't have the skills, you don't have the knowledge, you don't have the tools, you don't have the process. There's a lot of learning in that first 100,000. It'll take you 7.6 years to make that first $100,000 based on those numbers. And if you continue on and just did $10,000 a year at 8%, it'll take you 20.6 years to get to $500,000. So now you're at the halfway point. And the challenge is you think, oh, shoot, I got another 20 years before I hit $1 million. And it's not true. Your next $500,000, the other half of the million, takes 7.5 years. It takes you less time to make that last $500,000 than it did to make the first 100,000. And the reason for it is at the beginning, you're in what I call in the book, the wealth flatline. It's that time that you're compressing the spring and get everything ready to launch. And when you cross that tipping point, the subtitle of the book is getting your money to work harder for you than you did for it. The money momentum that is created will create money for you. And so getting in the game early or as early as possible, and if you're not in the game, now is the right time. Get in the game, get involved, stay in the game long term, because the only way to eat up that wealth flatline, 4-letter word, time. So get in the game, stay in the game, get past the tipping point, and let it roll.
One of the big things we talk about here at the podcast is a quote you have, skill sets before assets. What is the importance on this wealth journey of acquiring new skills and some insights you have for the prioritization of that?
So there's two levels of the skill sets to assets thing. One is, and this goes back to, in a sense, the Bernie Sanders question. If we live in a value exchange economy, like it or not, we get paid for the value we create. And the way we create value is to have additional skills, solve bigger problems, So if I want to get paid more, skill up. If I want to earn more, skill up. And in a ever-changing environment, whether it's technology, AI, or all that, is to sit back and say, I got to learn more. I got to grow. And now with technology, it's easy to get access to information and grow. So that's one aspect of the skill sets before assets. The second aspect of the skill sets before assets is in the transition of our wealth. There's another study that was done by Money Magazine that first generation millionaires, but then 70% of the wealth is lost in the second generation. And the reason is we transferred the assets, but never transferred the skill sets. So like my son, for instance, he will not get the money machine from me and my wife unless he proves he has the ability to steward it and carry it forward. And so our job as wealth creators, as individuals or entrepreneurs, is to not only create it, but to equip and educate those that will take it from us so it will continue. Because if we can perpetuate it, we now actually, and the way you do that partly is not to perpetuate just the wealth, but the values around it so it has a positive impact in society. Now, all of a sudden, we're creating something that will transcend our time here, but also continue to impact in a positive way.
So we want to, number one, like Warren Buffett would say, the best investment you can make is in yourself. And because if you learn new skills and you can create more value, then you can create more income, and then you have a bigger shovel to invest and to create opportunities. So learning new skills, we're living in a world where it's changing rapidly. So those front-facing skills. But that level two is the skill of managing money. And I like that it's also the values, the mindsets, the values. It's also not just practical skills. To your point, it's psychology. It's internal strengths like delayed gratification, like you could almost call it self-discipline. You could call it restraint, and you could call it, because 70% of wealth is lost in the second generation. And so then not only ourselves learning those money management skills and financial literacy, but passing that along to our families, our kids. Am I getting it right?
Yeah. So with Jeremy, I actually started him at 10 years old. I gave him a commission, and I said, there's 4 buckets. There's the giving, there's the savings, there's the investing, and there's the living. 4 buckets. The idea behind it was this. In giving, I now have the opportunity to have a conversation around the values of generosity, the values of being a positive impact in the world. Around the savings, I have the opportunity to now have conversations around, hey, what happens if your bike tire goes flat? How are you going to fix it? The frugalness and, I wouldn't use the term with a 10-year-old liquidity, but having some money available. On the investing side, now we can teach them about how things grow, and he got a Roth IRA, and then I started matching it and doing those kinds of things. And then on the living side, he learned the lesson that, I got to prioritize things. I can have everything, but I may not have everything now. So what's most important to me, and where to do this? So now you're using it as a way to open up conversations to a topic that most families say is taboo. I mean, I grew up in a family that it was impolite to talk about money, but I think when we talk about money through the aspect of values, we create an environment that money is no longer a demon, but a tool for a positive impact.
4 buckets, so great. I've got a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old too, so I am absolutely thinking about legacy and thinking about passing along these values. I think I got about 3 more questions for you.
Yeah.
And I know we could go forever, but these are so... Thank you so much for all the value that you're adding today. I am curious, for a startup or a small business, and many people now, they're building out content creators, podcasters, video podcasters, course creators, packaging what they know, adding value, or they're in all kinds of different online business opportunities. And of course, core of it is generating traffic and awareness and adding value through a YouTube channel. How should startups, small businesses, and maybe even in a side hustle, set aside their budgeting and maybe mistakes that they don't? If they set aside money for taxes, your opinion on maybe an emergency fund, your opinion on how aggressive they are with investing in the growth of your startup. And when I think about like the Tilt, which is kind of a creator economy company, they talked about how it takes for around $10,000. This was actually the average invested by kind of a professional content creator. A lot of times in the education space, it took them about a year to generate their first dollar, but then eventually they're generating 60, 80, 100K because they bought cameras and they bought these different things. So I guess, and they have a day job while they're transitioning over to wanting to create freedom and work from home. So I would love to hear your thoughts in that early phase of where you would maybe think about money management, percentages to savings, percentages to giving, even if you feel like you need to give to yourself. You could barely bring yourself on payroll, just different thoughts.
Yeah, so I love this question. And I think that here's the thing. We need to allow investing in our future to be a line item in every budget. It needs to be a priority. Most of the time, it's an afterthought. I'll get through it all, and whatever I have left over is what I'll use for the future. But that means I'm building my future on scraps. I don't want to do that. I want to make it a priority. So when I'm working with people and counseling people on they're planning a launch, I said, in the launch, you put a line item for investing. You also put a line item for taxes. So the tax man or woman, however you want to look at it, they don't go away, and they have rights that other bill collectors do not have. And
they can put you in jail.
They can put you in jail, and they can take assets pretty quickly. There's actually an auction site if you want to buy cars, homes, boats that they've repossessed.
What's the website?
It's an IRS. I'll have to get it. I don't know it off the top of my hand. There is an auction site for it because they're coming. And you have to make sure that you put money away. You have a partner in this game. Now, that also begs the question of making sure that you have good advice to maximize the tax deductions in a legal way so you minimize how much that partner takes. But I would put money away, and if you're not disciplined enough, separate the accounts. Have a high yield savings account, have 25 to 30% of your income going into that account, automatically put away for taxes. Then you look at it from that perspective. Now, at the startup phase, you're going to need the money in the business, and I get it. Now, when you're transitioning, if you have a job while you're doing the side hustle to get traction under it, then you have an income stream that is taking care of those things. But at the same time, through that income stream, I would look at saying, how do I create a foundation of cash that I put in a high yield savings account in case to cover us if we have a challenge? And I would look at it through those eyes. And when you plan that startup, is to look at it and say, all right, for the first year, I know that I'm getting a salary from a job. I'm not going to take a salary from this, but that cannot last. You have to build it into the equation, and your compensation, your return for your services has to be a priority. Otherwise, you're working for other people. And why are we doing it? And so it needs to be built in. So now you got to scrutinize the expenses, but you also have to look at, am I getting paid my value? And this is especially for personal brands, something I struggled with early on because I was a CPA and it was a timesheet and everything. People say, how do I get paid more? I said, the first thing you have to do is make sure you're owning your worth.
Indulge in a world of refined luxury. Are you self-employed or running a small business? Wouldn't it be great if it was easy to stay organized and on top of your finances? Then Skynova is for you. At Skynova, you can make professional-looking invoices, track expenses, and so much more, and everything is automatically organized. It helps you stay on top of who you need to invoice, who's paid, and who's past due. You'll always know how your business is doing, and it's so much easier to fill out your tax papers. Now, who doesn't want that? Sign up today at skynova.com. Stay organized and breathe easier during tax season.
Am I willing to ask what I'm worth in the sense of the solution I create and everything? Because if I'm not with conviction, then we can't expect someone to pay. And if you're reducing it to a math equation of hours and dollars, you've already started down the road of commoditizing it.
That's powerful. That's a conversation for a whole nother day.
Oh, yeah.
Raising your prices, understanding your worth. Also, I found the website. This might be one of my favorite insights of the conversation. IRSauctions.gov. And if you're listening on audio, here is what we are seeing on screen. There's a Lamborghini Urus that seems to be owned by maybe some kind of a drug dealer or something, or just some playboy. It's all got a custom splattered paint job. And current bid right now, 3 days left, is $175,000. There's also a Bentley convertible. And this one's funny because the windows are busted out. Like maybe his girlfriend or somebody got upset, or there was a drug deal that went bad, and so they were busting the windows, and then maybe this poor individual's assets all fell apart. So the IRS reclaimed whatever this is. So anyway,
Yep.
Side quest to IRSauctions.gov. There's houses on here, Lamborghinis, Bentleys.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's funny. And it kind of brings me to one final question I have for you. One of the biggest things happening right now with the internet is scams. I mean, the other day I was fortunate enough to have this Middle Eastern prince email me, and he wanted to hook me up with a multi-million-dollar inheritance, and all he needed was my social security number and my bank information. So I sent that over to him, and he hasn't sent the money yet, but I think he's trustworthy because he was telling me that this is a good dude and is a king or something that wants to send me a bunch of money for free. But if anyone hasn't had that happen, we're seeing this on YouTube. We're seeing crypto scams and comments.
Yeah.
We're seeing scam comments all over Instagram. We're seeing different rug pulls happening. A lot of influencers, are launching crypto projects, and it appears that it's kind of like the rug pull being that it's just a short-term thing for them to make some money and some insider information and pump it up and get out. And there's even a story of a Ponzi scheme that you maybe you could tell us that maybe you were part of, and you had to, the money machine helped you recover. But what is maybe that story, and how can people avoid scams and be wise with the financial state of things with the internet and all this new technology?
Yeah. So I made an investment in 2005 that turned out to be a Ponzi scheme. Wiped out 1/3 of everything I owned. Okay. Between me and two friends, we lost over $4.5 million. The person, I ended up testifying in the grand jury. He ended up going to jail and all that stuff. But these things are out there. How did I get caught in it? And I'm a financial guy. I'm the guy that they would call to testify against someone, which they did. But when your emotions get involved in your money decisions, your financial intellect goes down. And when this guy, a good con, starts to stroke the aspirations of your dreams, the solution to your pain, the quick ability to solve the problem of that immediate need, then you start to get your emotions involved in it, which I did. I literally started to create a spreadsheet because I'm an accountant, looking at the returns and going, man, I am going to be wealthy beyond. We start to make decisions. I just did an episode on my show that says your investing shouldn't be fun. If the investing feels like an adrenaline rush, it's a mistake. Okay?
That's good.
Second thing, so what that did is it created a bunch of the rules, the criteria, and the things that I have in the book to make sure that someone else doesn't fall prey to it. And I'm dogmatic about the rules in the sense of, if it doesn't fit these rules and I don't get a chance to do it, then I'm okay. And if I leave money on the table, I'd rather do that. One of the most important things, though, one of the most important rules, you never, ever, ever invest in something you don't understand. And so when it comes to these kinds of scams, if they're good scams, not that there is no such thing as a good scam. If they're a good scammer, let's say, they're good at it. They understand the psychological triggers. They understand the emotional triggers. They understand how to play the game and play on the urgency, the scarcity, the need, the reciprocity, all those triggers, and get you in the game. And you have to have the opportunity and the ability to step back and say, hold on a second, and be willing to recognize that you're feeling the pull emotionally into something. And if there's a voice, a gut feeling, and that what's really driving the decision, which was what drove me, was the desire for it to be true, that's not a time to get investing. And I think I think we're going to see a lot more of it. And what scares me more than anything else is how AI will start to enter into it. Because now there's a potential that there could be an AI bot with the physical of me talking to you as if it's me sending you a video. And that concerns me. And we have to be very diligent. So there has to be a set of rules. There has to be something where you're sitting back saying, I don't do this. Like most of my investments now are much more commercially available. They've been through due diligence. I'm not, hey, I heard from a friend of a friend, and let me set you up to have a contact with them and have a conversation. I don't do any of that. And there's probably money I'm leaving on the table because there might be some really good ones out there. But my job first, Safety first, growth second.
Safety first, growth second. And it sounds like money mastery is really emotional mastery as well. And this has been such a valuable episode. I do want to have you do a shout out to how people can connect with you, but a few things for our community. Definitely pick up the book, Building Your Money Machine, link in the show notes down below, to get all of these insights and so many different frameworks, even just those rules for how to filter through investments, all great there. And then also check out a few other episodes in our show notes. We do have some episodes about a lot of write-offs and tax advantages that creators and small business owners oftentimes are unaware of. And if you want to take your financial education deeper, we'll put some of the additional past episodes in our archive in the show notes. And then, Mel, we want to send people to what you're doing. What do you think are some of the best? I mean, shout out anything you want to promote, but how can people connect with you and go deeper with you?
Oh my gosh, thank you. The book is huge now. If you want to get the book, you can get it at Amazon. In fact, that's probably the best place to get it. But I want you to go to yourmoneymachinebook.com. And here's why. It'll send you to Amazon, but when you come back and put your information in, I want to give you some things like I've created a companion workbook. I created a book club guide to do it, because here's what I realized. You can buy the book, which is great. It helps me, and it puts a few dollars in Jeff Bezos' pocket. He doesn't need it. You can read the book, which will take up some time and soothe you and give you hope. But if I can get you to live the book, I'll change your life. And so I want to give you tools to make it easier for you to bring it into your life and make it a daily habit, a discipline, and a way of life to do that. So that's one. My Instagram is melabraham9. My YouTube channel, which is growing. It's moving.
Yeah, you've had some bangers lately. Like a couple of videos really pop off. Yeah, it's really cool to see.
Yeah, so my YouTube channel, I'm doing regular content on it. If there's questions that come up, DM me, let me know, because I'll bring it on an episode. We'll answer the questions. I don't sell investments. I don't sell insurance. I just want to sell people on their dreams, the possibility of it.
Well, Mel, thank you so much for coming on the Think Media podcast. Appreciate you, and look forward to next time we can connect in person at Think Media podcast. Like, subscribe, rate, share. And my name is Sean Cannell, your guide to building a profitable YouTube channel, and we will talk soon.
Running a creator business is overwhelming. Constant content creation, community management, juggling of platforms, and unpredictable income. There has to be an easier way to monetize through memberships. Enter Uscreen. Hands down, the best all-in-one membership platform designed specifically for video creators. We help you generate consistent subscription revenue without losing your mind, with powerful monetization features, easy distribution across devices with a branded membership site and apps, sleek video organization and streaming capabilities, and community tools built to engage and retain more customers. Uscreen gives you the power to connect with your audience like never before, and the VIP treatment from our team of experts on hand to help you every step of the way. To make consistent, reliable revenue while keeping full control of the brand and business you've worked so hard to build. Start your membership journey with Uscreen today.
Here's to being here in Wisconsin. Come along as we make our way across this great state with family and friends, where moments become legend and stories souvenirs. Nestled deep in the valley of the Wisconsin River, Spring Green and its surroundings are an absolute treasure. So says every family who has come seeking its rural beauty.
Whether it's a week or a weekend, I love when Mom and Dad put a trip together for some family time.
Hello!
The shot tunnel was really cool, although Dad was too scared to go in.
Oh, Jay, look at this. This is sick. Dang, guys, get in. How about me? Come on.
I heard of Frank Lloyd Wright and knew he was a big deal, but going to his home and studio and seeing where he worked was pretty incredible.
I've utilized organic architecture in all of his designs, all of his buildings. We really see kind of the heart and soul come to life here at beautiful Taliesin.
Mr. Wright considers this to be sacred space.
It makes you want to be an architect, right, Josh?
There was one day Mom and Dad took off on their own. Sounds like they had a pretty good time without us.
Good. We have over 20 wines for you to try. So everything here that you're going to try today is made from our estate.
Delicious.
It's a real vine to table experience. Yeah.
That's a winner.
They found a cool barn with live music. Dad described it as part art museum, part concert hall, and 100% fun. Then we did some exploring. Found a great little restaurant with some amazing locally grown food.
This is delicious.
You already emptied it out?
So delicious, can't stop.
We couldn't believe how much there was to do. We didn't expect it at all. An outdoor amphitheater in the woods? How cool is that?
I gotta get one for the books, guys. Eyeballs.
It's one of the many things I know I'll remember forever.
Hey, we'll come back next year.
I'm down to come back to Spring Green.
Explore more stories from around the state at travelwisconsin.com.
I think you like the cave myself.
You didn't even go in it.
I was scared. Me and bats don't get along.
I post more shorts, I can feel that subscriber growth more than when I'm just doing my regular uploads, for sure. The biggest mistake new content creators make is not releasing anything until they think it's perfect.
What do you think independent creators, since now you've lived in both worlds, could learn from what you learned in traditional media?
The most important mindset you need as a content creator is that you are talking to one person. That's everything, I think.
Welcome back to the Think Media Podcast. In this episode, I'm going to be talking to a creator that has generated 1.9 million views in the last 6 months. She's going to be breaking down her strategy. She's actually growing 10,000 subscribers per month, but there was a season recently where views were down, subscribers were down, and she was kind of in a YouTube recession. And maybe you can relate to that. And so we're going to be unpacking the story of Orly, the DIY designer today. She has over 460,000 subscribers. She's also the creator of #StyleLanguage, which is a viral personal style concept with 5.5 million hits on TikTok. We're going to be talking about long form, short form. She's going to be unpacking her secrets and talking about how she monetizes and has really built a business around all of this. Orly, welcome to the Think Media Podcast.
What's up? Thank you so much for having me. How fun.
For those that are just meeting you, can you break down what it is you do on YouTube and just kind of your background in fashion, DIY fashion, and how you ended up here?
100%. So, it's so funny. YouTube has always felt to me like an accident in a weird way because I've grown up my whole life making clothes. It's always something I've done. I come from a family of artists, a family of entrepreneurs. If you have an idea for something, chances are what you want doesn't exist and you make it. That's just like the mentality of my whole family growing up. A huge portion of my life had to do with style and fashion and how much I loved that and how much I loved the ability to customize and really communicate who you are through your style. And then there was a separate love that was entertaining and, being on camera and being myself on camera. And those worlds kind of merged. And I'd say, the last probably 10 or 15 years of my career has really been more traditionally on television shows, doing this stuff on TV. And I'd say it was maybe like my third or fourth year on a show called Home and Family, which is a daytime talk show on Hallmark, where I started feeling really disconnected from my own aesthetic and my own voice and my own personality and way of showing up on camera. Like I was a hallmarked version of myself, which is not super me, not super me. And so I literally went to YouTube just to have a place where I could continue to do creative things, talk about the things I loved, but in my own voice, where I was the only one in charge. The DIYs could be something I thought were cool. The voice could be my own. The tone could be my own. And so that's all it was supposed to be. And I think it's now been, I mean, I don't know, maybe it's 6 or 7 years that I've been doing it. And yeah, you know, I think this month hit like 530,000 subscribers, which is, you know, it continues to confuse me. Like, wait, what's happening? You know?
And when you jumped out, did you go from traditional support of Hallmark filming and things like that to completely indie? How did you launch your YouTube channel?
Well, a huge reason I was able to launch was my brother. So my brother, his name's Ben Shanny, Ben Shanny Creative, if you follow him on Instagram. He is a videographer and a photographer and my creative soulmate. Like we really, really are very, very close. And he has supported me in every kooky endeavor I've ever wanted to do. And he supported me in a way that he's made it look professional. He's made it look polished. He's made it look bigger than it was from the get. And that's the same with Rocknot. I have a brand and he does all the photography for that, for the website. And so he's always allowed me to feel a little bit more legit than I felt at the time. And so he shot everything for me. And in the beginning, he shot all of the DIYs. Like I would physically DIY, I would only worry about making what I was making and he would film and he would do close-ups and he would edit. And I would sit next to him while he edited and I would explain like, no, we don't actually need that. Okay, no, that part. But then can you make that slow, you know, and I would walk him through it. And I don't know when it was, maybe it was a year and a half in or 2 years in. It just wasn't sustainable. He was, you know, out of town filming and doing bigger jobs. And so I started filming it myself. I started editing it myself. And it all became something that I did 100% on my own, except for if anyone follows my YouTube channel, they know it well, the sort of like modeling session at the end of every video where I wear and style the thing I made. And I, you know, very embarrassingly walk up and down my block and wave at my neighbors. And I'm like, oh, yes, I'm that person, you know, modeling on the street right now. He films that part, but the rest I do myself. And, you know, and I think that is one of the hardest parts, I think, about being a content creator that gets a little sort of on by, I'll give you an example. I have a good friend who I actually was in business with for a while, and he is super funny, super smart, super successful, and has a big mouth, and it's everything that I love about him. And I remember him going on a rant. He has a podcast, and I remember him going on a rant, and he was talking about this burnout, YouTube burnout, creator burnout, and just the entire tone of the conversation was this incredibly overwhelming eye roll. Like, seriously, it's because you guys have never worked a day in your life. And now, like, you know, throwing out these fun videos where you dance around is so hard. Like, oh my God. And I so badly wanted to call him and be like, I have the benefit of perspective because I came from traditional television. And I know that not only is every department its own department with multiple people, but there are multiple departments to make this one thing happen. And so when I was doing a DIY segment, I had a producer who their only job was to come up with ideas. Then I had a producer whose only job was to figure out the order of how the actual segment would go. And I had someone who did hair and makeup, and I had someone who did wardrobe, and we had cameramen, and we had editors, and we had a marketing department, and we had social media, and we had every arm, multiple people in every department. And when you are building a YouTube channel, you are not only every individual, you are every department. And it is a lot of jobs. And it is a lot of work. And so it is so infuriating to me when people make it as though it's not a real job, because what we're doing successfully is we're making it look easy. We're sending you a little fun 7-minute segment that's perfectly packaged, and the personality and the fun and the light and the music and the sound effects are all there to make it feel like a pop of ease. But what it takes to create that pop of ease is a tremendous amount of work. And so I almost want to be like, you're falling for it. You're falling for how easy it looks. Like, that's what is successful, right? But it is really an incredible amount of work. And so the incredibly long answer to your question is, yeah, I do it as a one-woman show, and I do it entirely on my own, except for the modeling session, which my brother still shoots.
And when you first picked up the camera and picked up a video editor, what was that learning curve like? Was it rough at first? Did you have some previous experience? How did you, by maybe being in design, maybe you had the eye for shot composition, but even just camera operation settings and things like that, how did you accelerate your learning curve once you took every aspect of basically video creation upon yourself individually?
Well, I will say that right after I graduated high school, I moved to New York City and I went to a school called the New York Film Academy. And at the time, I really loved, I've always loved the idea of creating worlds and creating stories. And I thought that directing would be a really cool way of taking all of those interests. And so I went to school. And while I don't think that I actually apply much of what I learned as far as shot composition or storytelling there, I do think that the editing piece, there was some kind of muscle memory that I was able to actually retain it while I watched Ben edit. I actually remembered a little bit of how to do it. And as soon as I got back into trying it myself, there was a shorthand that I was like, oh, wait, I remember this. Like, Command B, like I just remembered funky little things, even though I hadn't done it in such a long time. So I do think part of it is that. The other piece I think is really just my experience in front of the camera in that limited role. I got to see what everyone else did, and I got to learn from people who are the best at what they do and see the things that they're concerned about. And even, you know, for example, like on Home and Family, that was like live DIY boot camp. You know, it was a 5-day a week, 2 hour a day, 52 week a year daytime talk show, taped, you know, live to tape. And so seeing the camera guys in rehearsal talk about like, okay, once you're gonna focus on this one moment, wait till you see the camera cut, hold until you see we've got at least 3 seconds, and then move on and we'll cut. Watch it and let it breathe for a second. Like they taught me, they trained me in what they needed so that when I was then doing it on my own, I knew what I was gonna need when I was editing. I knew I was gonna need a still moment to cut into, and I was gonna need enough of a breather for the audience to grab it and then move on. And so if I'm moving too fast, I can't use any of that yet. We've got to settle. Like I just learned from them, I think. And then it's just mimicked. Like you do it and you're like, that feels good. That feels familiar, you know? And it's amazing how quick you can learn. And as far as camera settings are concerned, I use auto settings always. Like I leave the fancy stuff to my brother. I use auto settings on mine with the auto light adjuster and like all of that stuff, because again, it's one too many jobs. You know, if I'm focusing on trying to actually create a pattern and sew, and I'm too obsessed with worrying about changing the settings, it's too many distractions in my brain. So I rely on those auto settings. And I think, you know, take some of the weight off of needing the best of the best, you know, and really rely on some of the amazing technology that these cameras have now.
In the background of your shot, we could see a tripod and a camera and a shotgun microphone. What camera are you using for creating your videos?
So I use a Canon. It is the Canon M50, I believe. I'd have to even look at it. I mean, I bought it probably 3 years ago now. And it's just it's to me, I knew the thing that I wanted the most was obviously a camera that had great, you know, picture quality, but that had obviously the, you know, screen that I could bend back to myself so I could make sure that I was recording and that things were still, you know, in frame. I really looked for something that was going to be super user friendly, had good automatic settings, and then again, just had a screen that I could flip towards myself for the most basic needs. And it's worked beautifully for what I need.
And then what kind of video editing software are you editing on?
I use Final Cut, and it's, you know, I have found it to be so easy, and it's what I used when I was in film school. So it feels really familiar to me. And I think like I have a girlfriend who uses iMovie. And I was like, you know, as soon as you're ready, the jump to Final Cut will be so easy because it's all the same kind of, you know, it's just the grown-up version of that in a sense. And so if you're starting on iMovie, you know, knowing that Final Cut is building on those building blocks, whereas maybe Premiere or whatever is a little bit of a shifting in your perspective, learning things and thinking of it in a different way. and I love it. I mean, it's given me everything that I need.
Yeah, here at Think Media, we agree. I think there's a lot of good video editing softwares, but the iMovie, Final Cut, Mac or MacBook workflow is definitely like the easiest, I think most streamlined workflow if you can get all of those tools. And even Nolan Molt created a full-length, free, basically Final Cut course that just exists on YouTube. It's like 2 hours. That's like, teaches you everything. And so if anyone's interested, we'll link that up in the show notes. But I actually want to hang on your time at Hallmark in traditional television with a question of what do you think independent creators, since now you've lived in both worlds, could learn from what you learned in traditional media? And what is also a mistake you think that traditional media is making now in light of your experience, boots on the ground, of new media creation and social media?
You know, I've had an interesting career in the more traditional media. I was on a competition show on NBC, and then I hosted 2 shows on the E! Network that were style shows, and I did Fashion Police and Live from the Red Carpet, and, you know, doing the Today Show and Access, and kind of having an interesting experience bouncing through all of these worlds. And I think that the one thing that I have realized is everybody's really scared. Everybody's really scared. And no one necessarily has a real vision because no one's really in charge. And even who is in charge isn't really in charge. And even that person who's in charge isn't really in charge. And so people are very scared to take a risk. People are very scared to follow a gut. And it can become a little bit of like I don't know how to describe it. It almost feels like you're like a buoy in the water, and everyone's just kind of bouncing around these waves, and the waves take different directions on different days, and everyone's just sort of on this weird ride. There's no anchor. And that's the one thing that I think has been very, very cool and very a breath of fresh air about the content creation space is like you are your own anchor, and you get to make very clear decisions based off very clear gut feelings, and you get to have a very clear voice, and you don't have to be so confused all the time and try to check everyone else's boxes when those boxes change every few years, and you contort yourself and mold yourself into something to check the boxes today. And then when they change, you're like yesterday's news, and you're like, no, but like I can be that too. Like it's a trap, you know, it's really exhausting. And so I do think that traditional media is looking and in love with creators who are authentically who they are and create this entire universe around them where everyone buys in. But then we've all seen that moment where they make the move to traditional, and all of a sudden, all of the voices get in there and sort of unauthenticate them in everything that made them special. It's just different. It's a bit of a corporate machine, and there are bigger interests at play, and it gets very confusing. And so I wish that traditional media would trust the like very real-time feedback that the audience provides. I think the audience engagement on social media should be telling you more than the ratings, like a Nielsen rating. And the fact that a show could trend on Twitter and then get canceled for bad ratings, like something's off. We're not looking at the same information. And so it's the same as like film. I feel like that happens in film. You know, the Barbie movie was such a great example. Like it blew up and took over the world in such an impactful way. But, you know, movies continuously get made with different goals or different directions or different audiences in mind, when the audience will tell you what it wants. Social media. And I think that is one of the reasons that the content creation digital space has a leg up, but it's still like not fully taken as seriously or with as much weight, which I think is a real mistake.
Real-time audience feedback is priceless. And for the small creator, that's not the season they're in, at least on their personal content, before you're getting comments, before you're getting that feedback. But for the established creator, it's such a powerful perspective you just shared of us not really considering how valuable it is that not only can we create content, but we have a continuous feedback loop, which can help us make better content that resonates more and steer away if we start to miss it, because it doesn't have all the corporate red tape or drama around it. We just are direct to consumer. I want to talk about a while ago, I don't remember where we talked. It might have been on a coffee with Cannell. And you were going through a season where views were down, growth was down. Now, if we look at your channel, 1.1 million views in the last 28 days, 10,000 new subscribers, almost 8 million views over the last 6 months, 52,000 new subscribers. So clearly, in a way, you kind of revived a dead channel. Your channel wasn't dead, but that's a language a lot of people think about, like, oh, my channel died. Like the algorithm killed my channel. How do I revive it? How do I get my channel alive again? You've been doing that. What has changed? Did you just get consistent? Did you just persevere through the valley of death? Or is there anything else you've tried?
Yeah, man, Sean, it is such a disheartening feeling. It really is. And like anybody, and this is a feeling that, like, you know, you almost don't want to feel, because there's a little bit of shame around it and there's a little bit of embarrassment around it. But for the new creator who's just coming to YouTube, who's just thinking about creating a channel, who feels like they're working their butt off and they're not getting traction and they're not getting views, or the creator who is very much like me, who felt like they had tremendous success, and then you're like, what happened? It is very hard not to take it personally. It feels embarrassing. It feels like you're a loser. Like literally these core little middle school feelings, like you didn't get picked first. That stuff comes up for you we're creative people. Most of us are in touch with our emotions and connected to that piece. And so we feel this stuff. We really do. And it was very hard. It continues to be very hard. I remember so vividly, there was a girl who is actually one of the reasons I started my YouTube channel. She had come on Hallmark as a guest, but she was a YouTuber. And I was at the place in my time there where I was like, I think I need an outlet. And I went to her studio in downtown LA, and her husband had run her channel together. And she was telling me all about how she started and gave me really, great advice of, pick a set day and pick a set time and let people get used to it and just be consistent. And I always kept track of her. Like, she was always someone I kept track of. And I remember so vividly that after my first year, maybe when things were going really well, I hadn't had 100,000 subscribers yet, but every video was doing over like 100,000 views on every video. It was crazy. And I remember looking at her channel and seeing that she had 700,000 subscribers and videos were getting like 7,000 views. And I remember having a deep fear, like a literal deep fear. I'm like, oh my God, like, does that happen? Like, does it not just keep going up and up and up? Like, does that happen? And why does that happen? And when that happens, what do you do? And then I remember feeling like, oh my God, it happened. It happened. It just fell off a cliff. And there were different reasons. One of the things that we talked about when we were talking about doing this was about how I had hired an agency to help, because I was like, I don't know what the hell's going on, but it literally feels like my channel is just being like ghosted and it's existing in a bubble and nobody even knows it's there anymore. And so I hired this company to help me. And the company didn't really do anything. But one of the things that they did bring to my attention was that during COVID, I did a video in March, like that March of 2020, of how to make your own face masks, when face masks you couldn't find them, they were non-existent, and I was making them out of old pillowcases and t-shirts, how to make it for the size of your face and all of this stuff. And the video blew up and blew up. But the problem was that it blew up with such a wide, varied audience, right? People from all over the world cared about this video. People of every gender, people of every race, people of every age, people of every interest level needed this. And all of a sudden, my channel was like, wait, what? Like, who are we? Who likes us? And what they believed was that then it was still sending my videos out to just as many people, but only a tiny fraction actually cared about that content, because it was no longer a life-saving necessity. It was like how to shred your jeans, And this guy who lived in Spain was trying to make a mask for his family, couldn't give a crap about that. And so that's what they thought happened. And so it could have just literally been, it took that long to redefine my audience and get very clear again about what I was. I do think, like you said, consistency was a big thing. There was quite a few chunks of time where I was so disheartened, I just took months off. And I was just like, screw this. Like, what am I doing? And I just sort of stopped. And so I've definitely been more consistent. That's all I can really say, because it's so funny. Until you sent me the screenshots of like, your channel is doing well, I didn't even really know that. I just am like, I'm gonna stay consistent, and actually the whole reason I decided to stay consistent is, so when I had that show on E, I hosted it with Kristen Cavallari, who is like the best human ever. Side note, like just the most wonderful, such a girl's girl, so much fun. Just, I love her to death. And we were texting and her brand Uncommon James has become really successful, and she has a full staff to do all of the things. And I had launched this business called Rock Knot, and it's doing really well, but I am still a one-woman show. And I was like, God, I'm so jealous of you right now that like you've got this whole team. And I was like, YouTube has been really hard, but I think of YouTube as my life money. YouTube is my mortgage. YouTube is my groceries. I want to keep the Rock Knot money in Rock Knot so I can hire someone and I can this. And she's like, well, then shut up and hustle. Get YouTube going again. What are you doing? She's like, hustle that until you don't need it. But come on. And it was like that click that I needed. Like, YouTube is my day job. Hustle. Work the day job. Do it. And that's when I got consistent again. And that's when I think it started growing again.
Hey, in just a second, we're going to get back into the episode. But if you haven't heard, for a limited time, you can get on-demand access to my YouTube strategy class entirely for free at thinkmasterclass.com. On the class, you're going to learn the one strategy that we use at Think Media that is currently generating over 300,000 views every single day. If you are new to YouTube, this is going to help you start right and avoid mistakes. And if you're already a pro, this is going to help you multiply your growth. And the cool thing is the class is 100% free and you can watch it instantly on demand. All you got to do is go to thinkmasterclass.com or just click the link in the show notes to get instant access. All right, let's jump back into the episode.
There's a lot in there. One, redefining your audience. I think that it's a challenge that many creators can relate to. I know at Think Media, we've done many things well. The vision has been clear, the best tips and tools for building your influence with video. But one of the challenges with doing a deep Final Cut training is it attracts people that want Final Cut, they want video editing, but they may not want a camera and they may not want YouTube advice. And now we've done that for so many years that we have attracted an audience that, although specific, is diverse. And we always say, never upload a video your subscribers didn't subscribe for. And there's no doubt about it that like conditioning the algorithm, your language of redefining the algorithm. And if someone said, well, how do I do that? Well, sounds like one way to do that is to get clear on your vision again, get back to consistency again, and also persevere through that season of all kinds of external dynamics, but of maybe the fall off of different audience members that just watched because of a mask video during the pandemic. And now it's kind of YouTube discovering your core audience again. But you ended so powerfully too with just the mindset. I think our mindset is honestly fragile. I think it's just fragile as humans. I think we have a fragile mindset in general, but I mean creators as well. Like, I don't know why we act tough or think we're, think that we have it all together. You mentioned scared earlier. I think we could relate to that. Scared, will this last? Am I doing it wrong? Am I going to mess the whole thing up? Did I just ruin my whole future and career because I messed the algorithm up? There's just a lot of mindset things that can cause us to be paralyzed and not post. But ultimately, as you got back, as you got consistent, you are proof that you got out of that, even just seeing your views on individual videos and your views across the channel, that a channel that has hit a recession or that has died can live again and can be revived. You did 7 uploads this last month, some full-length videos and some shorts. What's your current schedule? And have you found that to be sustainable?
So I release every Sunday. Sunday morning, 5:15 a.m. Pacific Standard Time is when I release the videos. And that, I don't miss. That's the goal, right? That's my like upload. Shorts, I can feel it in my gut. I am missing a huge opportunity by not prioritizing it. And I know it. Like, I can feel it. I know it. whether it's because YouTube is pushing shorts or it's bringing a new audience or it's just whatever it is, it's just another opportunity to clarify with the algorithm, like whatever it is. When I post more shorts, I can feel that subscriber growth more than when I'm just doing my regular uploads, for sure. So I think that that's a really, really big piece of it. And I know it's something that I need to prioritize more. It's just been a difficult one with time, because oftentimes, I just tried and then I stopped, hired someone to help create shorts based off my YouTube videos. But because I edit, I don't love the final edits I get. And so I'm not super stoked to upload them. And so then I'm like, I've got them sitting in a folder and I'm not doing it as much. Whereas I know when I edit my own short, it's something I feel confident about. It's got my voice, it's got my tone, it's got the important bits. And I normally find that it performs better. But I think that if you can get shorts up, it is a really powerful tool for the rest of your channel, because it just feels like this. It's like this little free commercial for your channel. It's like this 30-second, 1 minute bite-sized teaser for people who maybe don't know what you are and what you're about, that might pull them and be like, oh, shit, I didn't know she does all this stuff. There's a new full DIY video every week. What? And I get that all the time. Just discovering this, people commenting on 3-year-old videos, being like, I'm just starting down your rabbit hole. This is amazing. So I think really thinking of shorts as being a conversation, it's almost like thinking of YouTube shorts like TikTok. You don't need any followers on TikTok for your content to reach people who give a crap about it. That's the beauty. That's why TikTok has become such an exciting place for so many people, is that if it is interest-based, not follower-based, not subscriber-based, it's if you care about this, we're going to give you this content from someone you've never heard of, and maybe you're going to start following them and you're going to get more of that content. So YouTube Shorts is like that. I think it's that introduction. It's sort of casting that line out into the ocean and being like, anybody? And so I can feel in myself a wasted opportunity every week that goes by that I didn't get one out. And I really, really recommend it. I think it's incredibly powerful.
Are you doing a multi-platform approach? You mentioned TikTok and you created hashtag style language. Are you active creating content on any other platform, and how do you sustain that?
Yeah, so TikTok is the other platform that I try to create as often as I can on, for that very reason, that the growth there is crazy. Only on for a year and a half, maybe on TikTok, and at 200 and something thousand subscribers there, or followers there, or whatever, which compared to Instagram, which I've been on since 2012, and I have 100,000, and it's just you're crawling this slow, sad crawl, TikTok is exciting in that way. And so the main content that has popped for me has been style language content, which for those, most of you, I assume, that have no idea what the heck that is. One of the main reasons that I have always gravitated towards DIY is the idea that our style is really only supposed to communicate who we uniquely are. The idea of this aesthetic that's in, this trend that's in, and sort of mimicking style in its is exhausting to me. It's not what it's supposed to be. We're all supposed to look different, carry ourselves different energy, different vibes, and style is a really powerful tool. And so just like a love language, you might have a unique way that you give and receive love, that you actually express it and feel it. You have a style language. It's a unique way that you communicate who you are through your physical appearance. It's a unique way that you feel most confident, most like yourself. When you're dressed with these unique blend of elements that all come together in your way, you're like, yeah, that's me. That's when I feel me. And it's a combination of 3 or 4 words. So for example, mine is sexy, edgy, effortless, original. And I need all of those energies. That's when I feel like me. If I was dressed super sexy and glamorous, I would feel so embarrassed. I would feel so cheesy. I would feel so out of my body. But when I create an effortless, relaxed energy to it, and I add something that gives me a little edge, and I do something that's unique, now I'm me. Now my personality can shine. Now I'm showing up as my best self. And so DIY, the fashion piece of it, always started because I didn't want to buy something that someone else made for me. I wanted to make it my own. I wanted to speak my unique style language. I wanted to customize it to be me. And I wanted to teach other people to do that for themselves. And so it was always kind of my reasoning underneath everything I did anyway. And as soon as I started working on it as a concept and trying to write it as a book and all of that stuff, it developed into this like method that had steps and tools and an online course, and it became its own thing. And so what has been really fun about TikTok is that there's been an opportunity to create content around it. Some of it is, tutorial demoing type of content where I literally say, like, I'm going to wear this camo jacket and I'm going to style it for 4 totally different style languages. We're going to do this language, this, and this. And you can see that it's not about the clothes that you own, but about the way that you wear them. You don't need to spend $1 million. Just tweak the way you're presenting yourself. And so there's that piece. Then there is more a thought, a kernel of it that I want to explain and I want to teach. And I'm eager to teach the information. And then there are people asking questions that it's almost like a one-on-one where I take their question and I answer it. And so that conversation is happening. That has really thrived and been very exciting and something I've really enjoyed. And I try to bring it to YouTube with so-so success. It doesn't hit quite as much when I do it on YouTube, but that's okay. Different platforms.
How long does it take you to sustain the TikTok, original TikToks per week?
That's a great question. I don't know the answer to that, actually. I think that when I do the replies, that's easy because that's like if I asked you a question, like you have all the information in your brain, all you got to do is tell me about it. Like you don't need to script it. You don't need to rehearse it. You would have all the answers of whatever question, right? So in that sense, that's very easy. I literally see a question, I go outside and I answer it. When I shoot something that is more of like a demonstration, styling and all of those things, I'd say that normally takes me all in about 2 hours to shoot and to edit, and then to get up and do the text and do all the things that are like natively happening within the TikTok platform. Probably about 2 hours. So it fluctuates. But it's, this is a season in my life right now that is just very overwhelming. It just is. I think there's a lot of, like for you, what is your crew like to create the amount of content that you create? What's like your team?
I think media counting contractors is 30 people now.
Yeah, see, that's just you. I'm so jealous. I'm so jealous. See, like that is one thing that I have never quite figured out is how to grow beyond myself. And so I've always felt a little limited because it's really what I have the capability of doing. And with Rocknot being as successful as it is, that piece is a huge piece of my day-to-day now. I hired someone to fulfill orders, but we had some hiccups, and so we're taking a minute to figure out how we're going to rectify that wrong items going out and things like that. And so I'm fulfilling orders and designing new products and doing photo shoots and making ads and making a YouTube video every week and editing a short every week and doing a TikTok video and doing a styling. Like it's like, ooh, it is a lot. And I know it's not sustainable, but they're all things that I think have tremendous futures. And so I don't want to let any of them die. And that's what is the struggle.
I want to cover monetization income streams in just a second. And I do want to talk about a couple case studies and what you learned from some of your highest performing videos. And then we'll end with a kind of lightning round segment. And I first want to touch on one of your better performing videos in the last year was Denim Trends 2022, 7 Easy Ways to Fray Jeans, 362,000 views. And then you also, a month ago, did I Tried Viral AI TikTok Dresses, and that also did 290,000 views. What have you learned from those videos, especially also tapping into trends related to your niche, related to your topic, and maybe why those videos perform so well and how you came up with them?
Yeah. So the trends video is an interesting one because it certainly didn't pop at first. And so I do think there's one of those things where when we're thinking about our audience and we're thinking about the kind of content that we're providing to them, there's sort of two options. One is valuable, searchable, problem solving information that in 3 or 4 years from now, it's going to show up. So learning how to do these things with denim is going to be a video that's going to continue to serve them, even though it wasn't exciting and viral and like, whoa, everyone needs to see it today. It has grown because it is a valuable, always valuable piece of content that aggregates quite a few different trends together all in one, very in-depth, how to do it. And so it's grown. It was not a video that seemed like it was going to do really much of anything, but it kind of did over time. And then the viral dress, that was a graphic that I had got sent probably by 25 people, where they would just DM it to me on Instagram. And it was this image that looked like a big rectangle with a couple of slits in it. And then the image would pull the dress up and it created a dress and flatten the dress out and pull the dress up and flatten the dress out. And it looked literally like a rectangle with 3 slits in it. I tried it and it sucked. It didn't work. And I'm like, you know what? Forget it. This doesn't work. It's just stupid AI. Like, man, it's not real. And then I kept looking at it and I was like, no, there's a way to make this work. Like, there's a way to make this actually work. And maybe it's not, maybe it has to be different from what the AI generated one was. And so I played around with it and I figured it out. And it turned out to be this really great DIY. Now, one of the things that I think was good about the video was that it was different, formatted differently than my others, because I was in New York, I was on vacation, I had filmed the DIY portion of it when I was in LA, but I hadn't done my intro and I hadn't modeled it and I hadn't done any of that stuff. And so when I was in New York, walking through the city, going to meet my friends for a drink, I recorded my intro and it was on the go and it was different than me in my room, like, hey, welcome to my, and I think that it probably grabbed people initially. It just felt fresh and different. And I think that was part of it, actually, is even when there was a tweak of it, I was in my sister-in-law's backyard and like put up my cell phone and I'm like, hey, okay, so there's this one thing that I had to explain. And like, I'm in the middle of some random place. And I think those things made the video feel new and fresh to some people, combined with the fact that it was literally a 30-second dress that required no sewing. And it was strategically placed cuts that you could make into this really great piece. And so, they when they pop for different reasons, but I do feel like part of it was just the freshness of the intro and the virality of the TikTok, Instagram, whatever dress to begin with. And that's one thing that, I have struggled with. I have really tried very hard to stay away from those viral trends because I am not that girl. Like, I'm not that girl. I'm not going to do it great. I'm not going to nail it. So I feel like I have preferred to steer clear of a little bit of that and just really make something that I actually want to own in my closet. Like, that's really my goal is I'm going to make this thing and I'm going to teach you how you can change it and customize it for you so that it speaks your style language and it reflects your style. But I'm not going to follow this trend that everybody's doing. I hate it. I don't like it. So why would I do that? So I've started to trust my gut as far as my own taste is concerned and not do something that feels like it might be clickbaity. I learned that lesson with this Cardi B dress that I made. It was this like handkerchief dress and she was everywhere. Like, the photos went viral of her wearing this handkerchief dress. And I looked at it and I'm like, I can make that. That's easy. I can make that. I hated it, but I made it. And when the video tanked, it was even more embarrassing because I felt like I was trying to be someone I wasn't. I was like, look at me, make the viral Nicki Minaj dress. Like, I felt so like embarrassed of myself because it wasn't like a video I loved that just didn't pop. It was like a video that I felt like a little bit of a wannabe doing, and then it didn't pop. So then I was even more embarrassed, So I think I've followed my gut a little bit more too.
Powerful insights. And I think it seems like when you jumped on the TikTok challenge trend, it resonated with you. So rather than chasing a trend, if you feel it, when you feel it, jumping on that can be powerful, and it proved it was in the views. I also want to share one of my favorite strategies that is a small tweak that we do in Video Ranking Academy, our signature course. On the 7th R, it's repeat, where you kind of not just think about how can you make your next video more intelligently based off data-driven decisions, but also one of the habits of repeat is to look at your channel and think about how you can optimize old videos to give them new life or to give them a longer lifespan. And this little power nugget for the Think Media podcast, I'm grateful you're here, wherever you watch or listen, rate or review, smash like if it's on YouTube. But your Denim Trends 2022 video, amazing thumbnail that just says DIY frayed jeans 7 ways, 7 easy ways to fray jeans, DIY. And not only is it have 362,000 views, but to your point, I think it'll keep getting views for years. The really small tweak, delete 2022.
Yeah. Yes.
Just say Denim Trends, exclamation point. And one of the habits we have at the end of each year is we actually just look back and we look at what would cause friction. Because people will still watch a video that's older, but if someone goes, 2022, but now it's just Denim Trends, 7 easy ways to fray jeans. It doesn't mean that it's the new year. If relevant, you may actually change the year, but the small tweak is just delete the year. So that's something you can make actionable right now. Think Media Podcast. Maybe there's something in your library that you could re-optimize. And if you actually do want to learn a little bit more about tactics and tips like that, and you haven't seen our free class, thinkmasterclass.com, that's an on-demand YouTube class that's in the description as well. Let's land the plane talking a little bit about your money plan, your income sources. You said YouTube is your day job. And so if we were to pull out a pie chart and talk about ad revenue, talk about where income comes from, if you have any affiliate links that are relevant. How is YouTube your day job breakdown in terms of percentages and the ways you make money?
So I would say about 50%, 30% of the income that I make off YouTube is just from YouTube ad revenue coming in from Google, and that's, that. And that to me has never been anything exciting. It's never been a monetary amount that I've been like, whoa. It's always kind of been like, okay, I mean, it's nice, but it's not amazing. Although in the last few months it's grown. The rest of it has been through working with the right brands. And I don't do it that often because I am a real psycho about that. And the main reason for that has been, here's just blow up my own spot of embarrassment here, but I've always felt like I was going to be a big name. I've always felt that. I've always believed that. I've always felt that the pursuits that I have are going to work, that the dreams that I have are going to come true. I've never wanted to work with a brand that then that video surfaces and it's like I'm this cheesy girl just co-signing and promoting everything and feeling shame for that when I feel like, I'm at this place now, I don't have to do that stuff anymore. And now I'm like all these videos, And so I've always kind of been very careful about that for that reason. And so I do fewer, but I require a little bit larger of a payment if they want to do it. And so it's kind of like, no problem, but this is the rate to do that. And because it's not only me creating the content, but it's my endorsement of that product. And that exists across the internet. Yeah, you're only sponsoring my YouTube channel, but that's my endorsement that can be found by a Google search when you search my name and your company's name. And so there's value in that as well. And so then there'll be the majority of those things will be those sponsored videos. And, it's an interesting thing. You get pushback sometimes from people who don't like sponsored videos, and I've never quite understood that because they're watching your content for free. So it's kind of like,
right.
Sorry, I'll give you a refund. Oh, wait.
Yeah.
This was free. So I never understand that, but you have to just sort of ignore that and let that stuff go. If that does get to you, you got to just know that this is a job and you commit a tremendous amount of time and you deserve to be compensated for your work, and you deserve to be compensated well for your work and well for your education that you're providing and entertainment that you're providing. But yeah, it's sort of that kind of a split between the two. And, I've always been envious of hearing people when they're sharing what they make a month off of YouTube when it's these insane numbers. I'm like, that's just incredible. But the revenue that comes in every month has never really felt like a game changer to me. But it's been nice to have, kind of a thing.
When it comes to working with brands, do you wait for who's coming in and then you're just selective, or do you also outreach directly and email brands that you want to potentially work with?
I really just I sift through the ones that come in. I get probably 10 a day. And so then I just look at the ones that come in. If it's a product I'm familiar with and I know I like, then we start the conversation. If it's one that I'm not familiar with, I'll do a quick search on sort of brand confidence, reviews, what are people saying about them? And if it sort of passes that test, then I will always require that they send me something first with zero commitment. I'm always happy to send it back, but if you're not letting me try it before I commit, there's something wrong there. So you got to give me the time it takes to know if it works before I commit to anything. And then that's the second one. And then I have to actually really, it has to get past me using it and being something that I'd recommend to my mom and my sister. And if I wouldn't, then I'm not going to do it, because I do have family and friends that watch my content and do buy the things I suggest. And I never want to have that moment of being like, no, that was just an ad. Why did you do that? Like, I never want that feeling. So if I wouldn't suggest it to my mom and my sister, then I'm not going to do it. The only time I've ever done outreach, and it's been one of my most lucrative relationships ever, was the company Aspire IQ, which is like a, influencer branding sort of, connector. And they handle the whole thing, and you upload the content directly through the platform and all that stuff. They put me in, I was reached out through them for Cricut, which is like a cutting machine. And it's this awesome, it's like your own little personal robot, and it cuts out your designs, and you can do decals and t-shirts and cut wood and plastic and all this awesome stuff. And I've worked with them now for probably 3 years. And every video we do is a dedicated video. So the price for that video is much higher than non-dedicated. And it's a lot of work, but it's been one of my best relationships, because the rate that they are willing to meet every time is something that's worth that level of work. And I really, really like it. Like, I really like the product. So it makes it really easy to do. I'm not like, oh, shoot, hoping no one judges me for it.
You've already shared a lot of advice related to brand deals and sponsorships, but for many who want to get started in brand deals and sponsorships, if you were starting from scratch, what advice would you give specifically for that money plan on YouTube?
I think you have to have like a really clear sort of goal set or mission statement about what the brands and those sponsorships, what they're going to fulfill for you and how they're going to fit into the overall image that you're creating, the brand that you're creating, and all of that stuff. Because I think then that's really going to dictate the things you say yes to and the amounts that you say yes to as far as actual monetary dollars. If the goal is, there are a lot of people who do sponsored content for free because they want to appear like someone who's getting paid to do sponsored content. And that is their reasoning. They're hoping that by looking the part, they'll get those opportunities. And so for them, they're willing to do it for free, right? Others, no, you're going to pay me to do the thing. And that's the way it goes. So I think you have to really know what you're looking to get out of it. If you're at a place where your channel is providing value, I really am very adamant that you never take product for trade, because to me, it's a really toxic habit. This idea that brands feel like they can give product and that's your compensation. No, the product is the required materials to make your ad. I can't make your ad without your materials. I'm happy to take your product, make your ad, and send you back the product. I don't need it, but unless it is something you are literally getting ready to spend your own money on, and you're like, no, that saved me. I was going to get a new fridge. Holy cow, it just saved me $1,400 post-tax dollars. Like, score, yes, duh. But if someone's like, I want to send you this new blow dryer, and you make a dedicated video on it, like, you're high. Absolutely not. That's not how it works. So for me, I think that even if the amount is $100, or something like that, I think it's important for that buy-in, that you feel like someone is buying into the value that you provide. But again, it will come down for each person where they're at, where their goals are, what is the goal in a year from now? And if it's just to grow, to get to a place where you're doing consistent sponsorships and hopefully getting on the radar of more and more brands, then you bite that bullet and you do as much as you want for free for as long as it feels good. But you got to really trust your own gut. And when it starts to feel slimy and it starts to not feel good anymore, you got to make a change. And you either have to increase your rates or you have to reduce the ask. You have to do something so that you feel like it's a level playing field and like you're not being used. Like this is a really good partnership. I think that energy is really important in all of these things, because they're like little micro deals you're doing over and over again, and they can leave you with a really bad feeling if you're not kind of honoring yourself in it.
We're doing a new segment called Repeat After Me. And I'll say a sentence and then you repeat the sentence and then just finish the sentence with whatever comes to mind. If I was starting a brand new YouTube channel today, the first thing I would do, repeat that sentence, and then what would be the first thing you would do?
If I were starting a brand new YouTube channel today, the first thing I would do is create a schedule I would know for sure I could maintain on the regular without burning out.
The biggest mistake new content creators make is?
The biggest mistake new content creators make is not releasing anything until they think it's perfect. Just getting it out there is where you're going to learn all the lessons. You mean you baby something and you hold it until it's perfect and then you like release it and it still probably sucks because it was your first one. So just like get it out. That repetition is where the sweet sauce is. You just learn so much by getting it out.
Done is better than perfect.
Yes. Oh my God. I mean, I need my own advice, but yeah.
Repeat after me. The most important mindset you need as a content creator is?
The most important mindset you need as a content creator is that you are talking to one person. That's everything, I think. It helps you in being someone that they feel connected to. It helps in the way that you actually communicate your words. One of the most annoying things is, hey guys, to me. I don't want you, you're not talking to anyone else. You're talking to me. Just talk to me. I don't want to imagine this world of a million people sitting there on their phone. I want to imagine you're talking to me. And so I think you imagine you are talking to one person, you are teaching one person, you are explaining to one person, you are connecting with them. And then it also takes a little bit of the pressure off, of worrying about what everyone's opinion is going to be when you're just kind of imagining one person.
Orly, you have added so much value today and just want to acknowledge you for just sharing your wisdom, for the artistic spirit that you carry in your work and all of the content that you put on your channel. And you've shared so many tips here. You've been very generous. There's a lot of cool things you're doing for people that want to check you out. Where can they find you online, as well as some of these different projects that you have going on?
Oh, yeah. Thank you. It's been so fun. So the YouTube channel is The DIY Designer, brand new, either DIY, personal style, or styling hacks every week. And so that's a blast. And like we said, shorts, hopefully more often. TikTok is at Orly Shani. That's really social across the board at Orly Shani. So that's Instagram and TikTok. And that is really about, again, practical tips, style language tips, styling hacks, really fun ideas. It's just a fun little escape of creativity and inspirational content, I hope. And then Style Language, mystylelanguage.com is the website. That is a beautiful online course. If you're someone who wants to feel more connected to your personal style, you want to feel like it's something that really represents who you are and not feeling the comparison game and being overwhelmed by trends and feeling like crap. It really is about anchoring into who you really are. And so it's a beautiful process and there's an awesome community there. And then Rocknot, which is rocknot.com. It's ROCKNOT. That is a brand that I started, which I hope provides inspiration because it started off as a DIY video and launched into what I cannot believe successful kind of a business that it's become. It's all rhinestone cording that gets macrameed into all of these purse straps and purses and jewelry. And it's all detachable and multifunctional and interchangeable. It's really, really fun. And so that's rocknot.com. And that's been a business that's been a real passion project and now becoming like a real thing, which I can't believe. Oh my God.
Orly, thank you so much for coming on and adding value today on the podcast.
You'll be back! eBoost can help people customize and save at Liberty Mutual.
And Doug.
Well, I'll be. Only pay for what you need.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
Gatorlight, rapid rehydration with a specialized blend of 5 electrolytes.
You attract paid sponsorships even if you have a small channel.
A lot of times people they make up and tell themselves that they're just going to sit and wait around and there's going to be one magical day that they're going to have the right following number and they're going to have the right content and then all of a sudden these brands are just going to fall down from the sky. But that's just not how it works. whatever you want to get paid, double that. Start there. And then you have room for negotiation.
You have 5 brand identity steps. I'm curious what those are.
I have had influencers who actually don't have any following that consistently land collaborations, and they do it through one of these 3 ways.
So how do you attract paid sponsorships even if you have a small channel? Our guest today, Julie Solomon, is a visibility, brand strategy, and brand deal coach, has had over 10 million downloads on her influencer podcast, and is an expert at helping thousands of creators quit their 9-to-5 jobs, land paid collabs with such brands as Ulta, Four Seasons, Drunk Elephant, Up a Baby, and really helps people create that creator lifestyle, tapping into the power of brand deals. But you don't need a giant audience, and there's some unique things you need to be doing to reach brands in a paid fashion. And so in this first part, we're going to be talking about how to position yourself, how to actually strengthen your brand, and then we'll talk about how to get paid sponsorships specifically for you. So Julie, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Sean. It's great to be here.
So fired up to be hanging out with you. And I want to, in this first part of the conversation, talk a little bit about how to build a brand that attracts sponsorships and opportunities. And so first of all, what is a brand by your definition?
Yeah. So what a brand is by my definition, I actually like to really start with what brand isn't, because I think it's not a lot of things that people say that it is or think that it is. For example, it's not a logo. You know, a logo is a very useful tool for a business, but it's not the brand. A brand is not a product. A brand is not your community. A brand is not a niche. What branding really is a result. It is the customer's gut feeling about the product, the service, the company, whatever it is that you're throwing out at them. They're going to take all of that you throw at them and they're going to make something out of it. But they're making it and they're creating it. So really, in a sense, brand equals your reputation. It's the perception that people have of what you throw out at them. Because I also think that when you're creating a brand, you're not really just creating one brand, because perceptions can be different. You're kind of creating hundreds or thousands or millions of brands, however many customers or people that you have in your audience. And each person is going to have a different perception of what it is that you're throwing out there. So really, at the end of the day, it's the results, it's your reputation. Everyone's going to feel a little bit different about what that reputation is. And that's okay, as long as you've got it corralled mostly to where you want it to go. But that's one mistake that I think most people make, is that they don't have it corralled to where they want it to mostly go or be, because most people don't really focus on the key results and steps to building a brand. So what they're kind of throwing out there in their neck of the internet, it ends up being completely off mark.
If you were to drill down on mistakes and to do an evaluation, if you were auditing listeners right now, and so they sent you a link to their Instagram page, their YouTube page, perhaps their website, what are some of the red flags that when you consult or look at brands, and now kind of isolating down to personal brands, content creator, coach, what are some of the red flags that stand out over the years that you've noticed?
Yeah, I think it really comes down to they focus on the things that are, again, more of the results, but not really the brand itself. So, you know, they'll be making a claim, or they're sharing their niche, or they get really lost in the content that they should be creating, or they're making a pitch. And even though that's a lot of what we do, a brand is a result of that. And so if you don't start there, then you probably either don't know what you're doing, which is okay, because we don't know what we don't know until we do know it, or you think you know what you're doing, but you don't. So then you get stuck because you haven't quite figured out a way to get out of your own way. And that really comes down to really understanding your audience deeply. You know, what happens in their heads when they see your content? What happens, you know, when they see your products, your work? Is it what you want them to think and feel? You know, what's the reputation that you've created through the products, the content, all that you're putting out there, the messaging? And, you know, if you're creating culture and community around that, then that's great. And how that's affecting people, because all of that stuff counts. But most of the time, people don't tend to focus on that deeper piece. And I think that that's why that's so important, because they get lost in kind of the minutia of the following, or trying to grow, or trying to follow the trends, or trying to do that, instead of really understanding their audience deeply and making sure that what they're putting out there is what they want their audience to think and feel.
We obviously can't go to the depths of these, but you have 5 brand identity steps. I'm curious what those are if we wanted to kind of go through a 30,000 foot level framework of drilling down on empowering and strengthening our brand.
Absolutely. So I first want to back up a little bit to get to the keys to branding, because I think you need to understand that, at least conceptually, of how I measure the success for branding, and then to the steps. So you've got specialization, which is really going to support your authority building. You've got visibility, which supports your recognition. And then you've got community, which supports your sustainability. And if you don't really start there, I think that you're going to have a hard time kind of sticking out among the saturation and really being able to hone in on who you are as a brand. Where I see most people get stuck with this as well is this idea of specialization versus niche. A lot of people think, oh, well, you know, whether they're a content creator or a course creator or whoever, I think that they get mixed up. They think they've honed in on a niche when actually they've probably more nailed down a specialization. So to me, I think the difference is your specialty is going to be that unique style or type of work that you do. So for example, let's say that you're a yoga teacher, but you focus on hatha yoga. So hatha yoga is going to be your specialty. And that's crucial, but it's not the same as the niche. The niche, on the other hand, is about the problem that you solve for a specific group of people. So it's going to answer, what problem do you solve and for whom? So let's going back to the hatha yoga, you know, the problem that they may solve is, you know, finding balance and finding ease and finding some sort of stability in the day-to-day chaos. Or if you're a wellness coach, your niche might be helping new moms lose that last 10 pounds of baby weight, right? To allow them to have more energy. So the problem that you're solving is losing that last bit of baby weight. Your client's obviously going to be new moms. And so that's really the niche. That's the problem that you solve. And so I think for people first, a little homework for those listening and watching is to first define your specialty. For example, if you're a life coach, pinpoint your focus area, you know, whether that's health, relationships, finances. And then within that, you want to define your approach for clients. And then you want to nail down your niche by answering those 2 questions that I mentioned before. What problem do you solve and for who it's for? And so you kind of want to go there first. I don't want to get too into the minutia, as you said. But once you do that, you can start to follow the steps. And so there are 5 steps, and then they kind of result in a 6th step. So step 1 is efficiency. And this is all about how you manage your time and stay focused. Because if you don't have that foundation, you trying to build anything is going to be risky. So I always start there, because most people will come to me and they're like, I just don't have the time. I don't have time to stay focused. I don't have time to build the brand. So the efficiency piece is really key. Then we go into that brand discovery, which is step 2. And this is what helps you differentiate who you are and where, you know, your unique place in the marketplace is. A lot of this step 2 can also be answered with that specialty versus niche piece that I was just talking about. So that's a big one. And then you go into actually developing the brand. And this is where you actually start to clarify what it is that you offer, showcasing what it is that you specialize in. To me, brand development, it really goes beyond the surface, and it starts to kind of piece together more of the strategy behind the brand that you got from the discovery piece. And I think that that's a big thing that most people like to jump. And I'll talk more about that in a moment, without kind of laying that foundation. And so a lot of times people have a hard time developing their brand because they haven't quite discovered truly what that specialization and niche is. Then we go into step 4, which is communication and messaging. And it's all about taking what you've learned from your discovery and your brand development and then refining that into your messaging and into your content and starting to create a strategy around it. I think for a lot of people, this sometimes is the most challenging piece of the puzzle because they aren't quite clear on who their audience is. So it makes the messaging piece a little bit more challenging, which again, that to me always says, well, you probably need to go back to your brand discovery and your brand development a little bit more and hone in on that, because that's going to help you figure out who you're serving. And then you go to step 5, which is community. And this is really the bridge that's built with the messaging that you get in that step 4. And really being able to start to build that community, build that authority, build that sustainability. And then all of those steps lead to the last step, which is a lot of times people's first step that they try, is monetization. And while monetization can happen before you perfectly build out all the previous steps, it's once that you do the work of the previous steps that I have found from my own work and from working with so many clients at this point, that's when your options at this level really unlock. And you can start to see consistency, and you can start to see sustainability, and you can start to see predictability. Monetization and growing revenue and profit is really about understanding the different types of revenue streams available to you, how to generate them, how they all work together to feed your greater business ecosystem, and really being discerning and strategic to choose the right one for you. And I think those that just try to jump straight to monetization without doing those other steps in that order, they have a really hard time with that discernment piece and that strategic choice piece.
The biggest virtual event for content creators is happening May 23rd through the 25th with Gary Vaynerchuk, Dave Ramsey, Patrick Bet-David, Ali Abdal, Cody Sanchez, Shalene Johnson, Pat Flynn, and so much more. Just click the link around this video to get the most affordable ticket price in history for Grow with Video Summit. This is your chance to get access to top video experts, to network in our exclusive app and connect with creators and entrepreneurs around the world that are using video, and to leave this 3-day virtual event with a step-by-step plan for how to grow your personal brand, your business, and ultimately monetize your content in new and multiple ways, all happening at Grow with Video Summit. So click the link around this video to learn more and get your ticket before prices go up.
Wow. So the keys to branding are specialization, visibility, and community. Those lay a foundation for the 5 brand identity steps: efficiency, brand discovery, brand development, communication and messaging, community, which leads to step 6, monetization. Did I capture that right?
You captured it right. So there's a lot there, which is why each one really does build upon each other. And again, there's ways that people piecemeal this together. There's ways that people can have success without maybe not having all of this drawn out. But again, from my experience of being in this game for almost 15 years now, there's always typically a place where someone hits a wall. And every single time that I do this work with them, I always find, oh, the reason why you've now hit this plateau is that you're not really clear on what it is that you specialize in, or you're not effectively articulating the value of what you specialize in to your ideal audience, or you need to go back to that brand story piece a little bit more and what it is that you're discovering. And so through the years of this, the more that we can really use these steps to build upon each other, the better off you're going to be, again, for sustainability, which to me is that's the golden nugget. That's the piece of the pie that we're all trying to get to.
Sustainability. We want to be built to last. I love this idea of specialization. Everybody talks about niche all the time, or getting focused on your topic, and oftentimes feels the competition of that. Because of course, we have an abundance mindset. There's an opportunity for many to flourish around one niche or one topic, but specialization really puts kind of a unique spin on that. I'm curious if you could think of any stories of your students, how this applies personally to you, or perhaps in pop culture, when you think of a brand or personal brand and you compare, helping us understand the difference between niche and like channel topic versus specialization layered on top of that.
Yeah.
Just for Men gives you your strongest, fullest, thickest looking beard yet. Mustache and beard, now with keratin. In just 5 minutes, score your best beard ever. Just for Men.
Swiffer Duster traps 4 times more dust for clean even mom approves of.
That reach.
Making hard to reach
So easy.
Swiffer. Wow. The mother of all cleans. Love it or your money back.
Wherever you book, first check Kayak to compare car rental sites and prices to find a great deal on exactly what you're looking for.
Oh, yeah. Wait, Hey, Medic, what kind of dinosaur is this?
That is a Deinonychus.
What I'm confused about, right, is dinosaur, hammer. What do those two objects have to do with anything?
Did they know we were coming?
Great question. And I've got some examples kind of in each of those arenas, but I'll talk because I know we've got a lot of YouTubers that listen to this. So I had a client that she didn't know it at the time, but what she was specializing in was creating really kind of entertaining and more how-to informative travel vlogs for exotic destinations. And so she would be going, all over the world and really offering insider tips and insights for people that like adventure in exotic destinations around the world. And when she came to me, she was just kind of like, well, I was like, well, what do you specialize in? She was like, I don't know. I just make random videos about travel, about my life and the stuff that I like. And I was like, well, that lacks clarity, that fails to communicate to a specific audience. Let's dive deeper here. And once we were able to get into the deepness of what she did specialize in, she was able to say, well, I guess what I specialize in is really honing in on how an adventurous globetrotter can see and experience the world, and how I can make that easier for them, informative for them, and just fun and entertaining for them based on where I travel and the content that I'm creating around that. And so we were able to take that kind of poorly done, way that she was pitching herself, if you will, into something that was more specialized. I think the other thing that is really interesting about specializing versus niche is that once she was able to really hone in on that specialization, it actually created so many more opportunities for her because she was able to work with brands in a bigger way. She was able to get deals to go to places around the world that she hadn't been able to go to yet. And I think a lot of times people get really scared to quote unquote niche down or to specialize in something because they make up and tell themselves that they're going to be missing out if they do. They'll say things like, but Sean, I'm multi-passionate. Don't put baby in a box. I want to go and experience and feel it all. Or they'll say something like, I already work with a bunch of clients that I'm trying to make a pivot, but if I do, then I'm going to lose money and it's not going to be sustainable. And so what I often say, and I love to give these examples more in pop culture, is, for example, Amazon. When Amazon first came onto the scene, what did they sell? What did they specialize in selling?
Books.
What do they sell now? Everything. Why? Because they became the absolute best at selling books first. Because they honed in on that. You see it a lot also in entertainment and pop culture. Let's take Lady Gaga, for example. When Lady Gaga first came on the scene, what did she specialize in? She specialized in singing and songwriting. And because she became the absolute best at that she could, she's now an Academy Award-winning actress. She's been nominated. She's been in top grossing films. She has a makeup line that is sold in Sephora and is doing incredibly well. She does a multitude of different things, but it's because she chose to specialize. And she's even talked about that in interviews. She said, my passion was always acting, but I was afraid to go there. And so I went all in on my music first and really honed in on that. And then I was able to widen the net even wider. And so I do want to just share that because I think a lot of times I see it with my clients as well, is that they'll get so scared to specialize. They'll get so scared to really hone in without realizing that it's that specialization that actually kind of allows you to break that wall, so to speak, and then widen the net once you've laid that authority piece. And that's what specialization helps you with.
This is interesting. Now, how would you compare specialization to this idea of mastery? What it seems like Robert Greene wrote the book Mastery, and he said, mastery is not a function of genius or talent. It's a function of time and intense focus applied to a particular field of knowledge, which is good news for us because if we identify our specialty, niche down on it, go deep on that, it sounds
study it, experience it, teach it, apply it. Was it the 10,000 hour rule?
The 10,000 hour rule.
Right.
And then ultimately, though, it can, if we're that multi-passionate person and we're like, I want to do singing, songwriting, makeup, movies. And you're like, well, specialize first. And that can be the doorway that opens it up. When you think about specialization, what would you encourage creators in a competitive landscape about how important it is, even if they already have that raw specialization, to be
committed to continuous improvement, leveling up their game, going even deeper in their genius, going even deeper. Is that an important thing in today's landscape?
I think so. I think the biggest takeaway or help that I can provide to those listening is that you're going to have your passions and you're going to have the things that light you up. And there's going to be some of those things that you'll be able to monetize in your life. And then there's going to be some of the things that you won't. So I think you first need to get clear on that. Because there's difference, I love to bake cupcakes with my son, but I'm not going to go open a bakery. I'm not going to start selling cupcakes on Etsy. Mm-hmm. It doesn't make me less passionate about it. It's just not where my business focus is going to be. And so I think you first have to get clear on that. And then you have to also get really clear on what do I want to be known for? Because that may also be different than what it is that you're passionate about or what it is that you specialize in. And so, for example, in my own journey, my background, I started in corporate America as a publicist. And I specialize in PR and marketing, and that has now served me very well in the online landscape that I am today. But I didn't want to be known for that. And so when I was trying to make the pivot, what I decided was like, I'm going to have these PR clients because they're keeping my ship running right now. They're paying the bills. But I'm not going to talk about that publicly because that's not what I want to be known for. That's not what I want to pivot into specializing in. And even though I have tons of hours in PR work and that's going to serve me well and I'm going to be able to take it with me, it's not going to be the thing that I am going out and advocating and marketing and messaging about. And so I think that question of what is it that you want to be known for is a good one to answer for yourself. And then the other thing, and this is just very practical because we have to think in practical terms, especially when we're in the building phase, is how do we make this easy? Like what is something that you know well enough that somebody would happily pay you for that is somewhat of a lower hanging fruit, meaning it's not going to cost you a lot of time and energy, money, and resources to build and get going. And that's really why for example, the first course I ever created was a course on pitching. My background in PR, I know how to pitch. It's not like I wake up every day, Sean, and I'm like, oh, I can't wait to teach people about pitching again. But I'm passionate enough about it. It helps me to be known for it because it builds authority. I'm great at it. I can get people results on it, and people want what that is. And so they will happily pay me for it. And so I allowed that to create that foundation of specialization, which then allowed me to build the authority. And then over time, I was able to do things like launch a podcast, create other programs and courses that had nothing to do with pitching, create a mastermind, write a book, speak on stages. From there, it did start to flow, but I did have to have that foundation of specialization and authority. Otherwise, why would anyone care? Why would anyone know, like, and trust me? Why would anyone say, I'm going to pick listening to Julie, following Julie, listening to Julie's podcast over the thousands of other people that are probably sharing and teaching similar things?
Very insightful. And so this is powerful to think about specialization, to think about the foundations for branding. Before we kind of pivot into the next session, let's summarize up what we've learned here a little bit. And specifically, if we put ourselves in the perspective of the brand, what are the key factors for building a brand that attracts collaborations that you help creators find ultimately? What are maybe, either way you want to take it, red flags that is what is maybe blocking brand deals from coming to creators?
Yeah. I mean, well, the goal of working with brands is also kind of the goal of what influencer marketing is at its core. The goal is either conversion. They want you to help them convert, make money, or it's awareness. They want you to help their brand and business build awareness, or it's both. And so you have to make sure that you have the authority, the know, like, and trust, the specialization, the community that is needed in order to then be able to offer that to a brand, so much so that they're going to see a quality ROI on that. And so the more that you can focus on, again, brand equals reputation, building that reputation, having really amazing offers that support that reputation, having strong quality content that supports that reputation, which again goes back to the steps that we talked about, the efficiency, the brand discovery, the brand development, so on and so forth, then that's only going to allow you to have more strength to leverage when it comes to you working not only with brands, with clients, with partners, with, people that, I'll say with like a publishing house. I don't think HarperCollins would have ever given me a book deal if they wouldn't have been able to Google me and say, hey, this woman has some authority. This woman is an expert in what she is talking about. People trust this woman. People believe in what this woman is sharing, and she's got the experience to back that up. So things like that would never happen unless you have that in place. And so that's really what the brands are looking for. Can you help us build awareness? Can you help us sell?
I want to drill down now on how we could start getting brand deals. How big do we need to have our audience, micro influencers, nano influencers? But I also do want people to know, depending on their schedule today, that if they want to skip to it, in the show notes, you do have a free class. It's 3 steps to grow your following and land a $10,000 worth of brand deals in just 30 days. Incredible promise, especially if you have a small following with no time for content creation. So no miss, free class. You can check that out. Julie is teaching that. It's packed full of value, and that's in the show notes. But let's hit this idea of, I think there's a big myth or a mindset that says, hey, if I don't have 1 million followers and I'm not a Kardashian, would a brand want to work with me? What's your answer to that question?
Yeah. So, okay, let's break down if we can kind of back it up a little bit so people kind of know maybe where they land. I would love to break down by definition kind of where people fall in terms of, I'm going to use the word influencers for the sake of this, but we essentially have what is called the nano influencer, the micro influencer, the macro influencer, and the mega influencer. So a nano influencer is someone typically, by definition, it's someone with less than 10,000 followers. Micro influencer, you're going to have between 10,000 and 100,000 followers. Then you have your macro influencers, which are typically around 100K to 500K. And then you've got your mega influencers, which are 500,000 followers plus. And then I'm just going to throw another one in there. Above a mega influencer would be what you would call a celebrity. That, they probably have millions and millions of followers, but it's not just the followers that the brand is interested in. That's kind of more endorsement, bigger product placement type things. You're thinking of The Rock, Jennifer Aniston, people like that, household names. You've got the celebrities. So that's where, the following number typically is. And then when it comes to collaborations and really what influencer marketing is at its core, it involves a brand collaborating with one of these influencers that we just mentioned to market one of its product or services. And they want to either improve conversion, awareness, recognition, or both. Some collaborations can be less tangible than that, but typically that is what they are looking for. And so when it comes down to, okay, how many followers do I actually need in order to land a brand deal? In my world, and I've been teaching this since 2016, I have had influencers with as little as 380 followers land paid collaborations. And I have had influencers who actually don't have any following that consistently land collaborations, and they do it through one of these 3 ways. And I can share those with you now. And so when it comes to like a brand partnership, the 3 most common types are sponsored posts, affiliate partnerships, and UGC, which stands for user generated content. So we'll start with sponsored posts. So what this typically means is when an influencer will create content that features a brand's product or service, and they'll do that in the form of some kind of high quality image, video, or some other media platform. So typically what we see this happening mostly is with YouTube videos, TikToks, and Reels. The compensation range for sponsored posts, and it can vary big. It can be anywhere between $100 to multi-6 figures per sponsored post, depending on a slew of things: engagement, following, terms. Is it more of an awareness campaign? What's the influencer bringing to the table, et cetera? The following threshold for this one, typically I've seen creators with 500 or more followers that are considered for sponsored posts, meaning they're going to get paid to sponsor to create that piece of content. As I said before, I've seen creators with less than 500, but typically that is the threshold. So that's sponsored posts. And that right there, I think, is very shocking for a lot of people, because a lot of times people will make up and tell themselves that they need 10,000 followers to to get a brand deal. I don't know. I think that came from the fact that just Instagram made you have 10,000 followers in order to like share a link on a story back in the day. So maybe that's where that came from, but that's not true. Now, the other two that I'm about to share, there's actually no follower threshold. So we'll start with affiliate partnerships. I'm sure a lot of those listening are probably familiar with this. This is where you essentially promote a brand's product or service, and then you earn commission through an affiliate link. And again, you can earn anywhere between $1 to tens of thousands of dollars through your affiliate link. This is more of a volume game. So even though there's no follower threshold that is required, I will say that obviously the more volume, the more clicks that you have on those links, the more money that you're going to make. Then you have what is called UGC, user-generated content. And this really kind of became more popular, I would say, since about the COVID era over the last 4 years or so. And this is where an influencer can create, or really anyone, if you enjoy creating content, you can create content that features the brand's product or service. And then what's unique about this one is that they actually want that content so they can share it on their platforms. They don't even sometimes even care if you share it on yours, because that's not what they're paying you for. They're basically just paying you to create advertisement for them. And the compensation range for this can be anywhere between $100 to, again, hundreds of thousands of dollars for creating and promoting UGC. I have a ton of students inside my Pitch It Perfect program that have 800 followers, 7,000 followers, 1,500 followers that are generating $10,000 to $20,000 a month just on creating UGC, because they've really specialized in creating quality UGC content on various platforms. Some people may focus in on TikTok, etc., but they have honed in on that. And with that, again, there's no follower threshold, because a lot of times the brands don't care about your following and you sharing it on their platform. So those are kind of the three simplest and easiest ways to kind of break that down and what the follower threshold looks like.
Fascinating. And I'm curious, in a case study of UGC, it's been a big interest of the Think Media podcast lately. And you have some students that are like focused on UGC specifically. What's kind of like a case study of how people are getting in touch, finding brands and getting in touch with decision makers around UGC? I guess what I mean is, and maybe you could break down this whole spectrum. There are some cases, there's agencies that work with brand sponsorships and influencers. And by nature, historically, I've understood that to be bigger influencers that want a sponsored post, that want a sponsored video. And they're at a place of influence where they don't, the UGC, maybe usage rights cause the more mega influencer to earn more, because it also is going to be used as a user generated. They're going to run media on it. But I guess all that to say is, if you're this creator that doesn't have much of a following, because that's also unnecessary potentially at UGC, what do you have? A portfolio, some examples, and then how are you finding these deals?
Yeah. So you have your creative IP and you've got your content. And then, yes, you would want to build up a portfolio deck. So I'll give you an example. One of my students inside Pitch It Perfect, she's a scuba diver. That is her niche. And I think that's also something to like just make a point of, because most people say, well, my niche is so different and unique, so I don't think I can get brand deals. I've had over 10,000 creators go through my programs with hundreds and hundreds of different niches, everything from, urban exploration to scuba diving, to travel, to gaming, to culinary experiences. I mean, you name it, it's there. So she's a scuba diver, and she wanted to, because she was going to all these cool places, all these amazing coral reefs throughout the world, and she wanted to create content around it. And so she started to pitch the idea of, because she had an underwater camera and was really honing in on her photography underwater. And so she started pitching UGC content. And so now the companies, the tourism boards, the hotels aren't having to pay these massive ad agencies that specialize in that to do it. They can now pay her. And so she started to first just go on trips, create her own deck, shoot her own content. Then she started to reach out to the brands that she would want to work with. And she started to, whether that was Nikon, she started to organically tag Nikon in her reels and her stories, even though they weren't paying her yet. She wanted Nikon cameras to know that she was using their camera to shoot the underwater photography. She started, tagging Patty and, the people that were making the fins that she wore and the gear that she wore. And so as she was starting to do that, she was starting to get interest. And I think that that's the other thing, that a lot of times people they make up and tell themselves that they're just going to sit and wait around, and there's going to be one magical day that they're going to have the right following number and they're going to have the right content. And then all of a sudden these brands are just going to fall down from the sky. But that's just not how it works. And so when you're working on building this out, you have to have an end goal of like, when you really envision this out, what does it look like for you? How do you, how do you want to be spending your time? What do you want to be known for? Really start honing in on that, and then start building it out and start creating a deck, start creating UGC content without getting paid for it. And that way you can showcase to these brands, hey, I created this piece of content. I put it on my feed. It got this amount of impressions. It got this amount of saves. It got this amount of shares. I created this piece of content on YouTube. Share the analytics. That's what they want to know. The numbers never lie. And give yourself, if you really want it, give yourself the gift of doing that. Not only is it going to strengthen your muscle of creating UGC, of the courage of going out and pitching brands and reaching out to them, but it's also going to allow you to showcase that you can kind of back up what it is that you're putting to the table. There's an ROI with working with you. And I think that that's something that most people don't do. They wait around to get the deal first, when it's actually the creation of the content itself and showcasing your talents first is what gets you the deal in the first place.
What are some things that you should negotiate that maybe creators new to this forget in the contract, or that naturally they start getting into a deal and all of a sudden you get hit with, most professional brands they want you to sign something. And so if you're new to this, what are some things to think through in terms of negotiation points?
Yeah. I mean, first off, everything is negotiable. So you have to remember that. There's a lot of mindset that comes with negotiations. A lot of people are afraid that they're going to miss the deal. And so they'll just kind of give brands whatever they want. But there's a few things that I have to share about this. The first thing is, you had mentioned some of those agencies and things like that before. You could be a brand new influencer with not a big following and go to Aspire.co right now and sign up for their influencer marketing agency and maybe start to get deals. And I think that when you're building to that, it's good to have that, because again, it's going to probably help you strengthen that muscle of creating content. It's going to help you, build a deck, so to speak, but you're going to be missing out on two things. You're going to be missing out on building the relationship with the brand yourself, and you're going to be missing out on the negotiation power, because when you work with some of those agencies, Influence Co., there's thousands of them out there. Those contracts are ironclad. You can never redline them. They usually have things like in perpetuity in the clauses. And before you know it, you're going to be like a client that I had a few years ago who did one of those deals through that agency with Pantene. And then 2 months later, she was on a billboard on a bus in New York City. She didn't get paid for that. She got paid like $150 to create one piece of content. And then they used it in perpetuity of licensing. There were no usage rights. There were no term agreements because she signed that. And so you just have to be really careful. I think that some of those agencies and things can be great, but they don't give you any negotiation power. So that's kind of the first thing to think of. And the second thing, when it comes to actual negotiation, any reputable company that is doing a campaign with you should have a contract. They should have a legal team. You should not have to be creating your own terms and agreements and contracts with a brand. So that's the first thing. They should be sending you a contract. And then just like with anything, if you're not filing your taxes yourself, then you probably shouldn't be, reading over contracts yourself. So take a little bit of investment to hire an attorney. There's a ton of attorneys out there now that just focus on influencer marketing. They focus on trademarks and a lot of things of that nature. So find someone that can read that to you, and you yourself start to study, start to look for, terms like in perpetuity, which means for life. Start to see what the usage is, start to see what the terms and agreements are. If they're saying, hey, we'll give you $5,000 for this campaign, but we're wanting you to do 25 reels this month and we own the rights to them, I don't really think that that's a great of a deal. I don't care how many followers you have. And so a lot of this comes with trial and error and understanding, but I think that it's really about giving yourself the courage to do that. And then also, I always believe in whatever you want to get paid, double that. Start there. And then you have room for negotiation. Where most people get tripped up is that they know what they want to get paid. Let's say, okay, I want $1,000 for this reel post. And so they throw out that number and then boom, they've lost all their negotiation power because now that's the start. So that's another big thing. Double it. Give yourself some wiggle room. And I've had students come to me and they're like, Julie, I was so terrified to double it. And I doubled it. And then they just said yes without negotiating. I'm like, oh, well, then you should have tripled it. Because if they're just saying yes off the gate, then that means you probably even had more wiggle room in that budget. So that's another big one. And then the biggest takeaway that I always tell people that if it's possible, have the brand throw out the number first, or at least a range. And a lot of times that can go back and forth. But if the brand will not give you, because they're the ones with the budgets, not you. They're the ones with the marketing budgets. So if they can give you a number or at least give you a range, I really love to work with ranges because then that again gives me more negotiation to say, okay, for the top of that range, this is everything that I could do. For the bottom of that range, this is everything that I could do. What do you want, brand? And then it gives you more opportunity to have that dance, if you will.
If you reach out to a brand and you get a no or you get silence, should you give up?
No, you want no's. No's are the best things to get because why? We learn from our no's. So I actually have, something in my program where I encourage all of my students to actually go out and get 50 no's. Because that's going to tell me that if you've gotten 50 no's, then because for every 10 no's you're going to get one yes. So if you've gotten 50 no's, and that tells me that you are pitching out a lot. And I think that is the biggest misconception that people have is like, well, Julie, I pitched 3 brands this week and they all said no. So I guess I can't cut out, I'm not cut out for this. And I'm like, well, you haven't even scratched the surface with the amount of brands that you should be pitching. That's why in Module 1 of Pitch It Perfect, we actually start with our dream list of brands. I walk my students through exactly how to figure out who are the best brands for me to align with based on my brand values, based on my niche, based on the content that I create. Let's create our dream list and then let's go out and start hitting them. And I think a lot of times that is another thing that people are very kind of surprised by, just the volume of brands that you really need to pitch in order to see those consistent yeses. However, all of the opportunities are out there. And as long as you have the right pitch formulas and you know the right strategies, it makes pitching that much easier and faster.
Man, such valuable advice. I do have a couple final questions, but I want to make sure that if this is resonating with you and you're listening to this Think Media podcast and you're like, I want to start getting some deals, I want to go deeper with this, Julie has a free class. I believe on that, you could cover what you cover on that, but that includes your elevator pitch formula, right?
Oh yeah, it includes the elevator pitch formula. I'm happy to talk about that here too, but I would definitely recommend going to the class so you can see the visual. We have so many graphs and things like that on that class, so the visual really does help.
Yeah, so we'll cover as much more territory as we can here, but check out the show notes. This class is specifically 3 steps to grow your following and land $10,000 worth of brand deals in 30 days. We are living in exciting times, especially with UGC, where if you have even no following, by getting in front of the right brands and understanding how to create the right content, you could start monetizing content creation. We've covered so much like your specialty, and I love the idea of some people, maybe it's scuba diving niche plus specialty. I'm a specialist in making UGC content for brands in a particular arena. And then boom, all of a sudden you've got now this new school business model that's very exciting. Taking it high level, what is the current state of influencer marketing, where you see it going next as far as social platforms in light of maybe the competition and also the opportunity? What do you think is facing us in the months and years to come?
Yeah, so, I was reading a big trends report a couple of months ago on the state of the industry. I love soaking in those trends whenever they come in and kind of taking what I like and leaving the rest. But one of the things that really stuck with me is one thing, this is a growing, expansive industry. It's not going anywhere anytime soon. And so that's a good thing. You want competition. You want what you don't want to be in is a dying industry. So it's a good thing. I think the last report I read, it was something like it's going to be worth billions and billions of dollars by 2027. I can't remember the exact number, but it's growing. Brands see the value in it. The market has also gotten way more sophisticated, which I think is another positive. But with that, creators have to become more specialized now more than ever, just because there is so much competition and there is so much sophistication now in the marketplace. Gone are the days where I remember back in 2016, brands weren't even asking for insights or analytics. They would just be like, hey, we'll give you $2,000 to create this YouTube video, and I even got paid by a brand called Mustela years ago to create a YouTube video. Sean, I had like 15 subscribers on my YouTube channel and they paid me $2,000. Gone are those days. And so it really is about honing in on what it is that you specialize in. You can have various different types of content pillars. You can have other passions. You can have other things. But what is going to be that secret sauce, that thing that makes you unique and different, that would have a brand say, I want to pay you? And if you can't answer that for yourself right now, like if you can't think, if a brand came to me today and said, I want to pay you and this is how much I want to pay you and this is why we're going to pay you that much, start there, because you're only going to be setting yourself up for success the more that you allow yourself to specialize in. So that's where I see the industry going. That's what I see it requiring from content creators. And I think it's just going to make it a healthier and more enriched industry by doing that.
You have really highlighted this point of specialization, and like Sally Hogshead says, different is better than better. We're actually, at the time of recording this, coming up on our event, and one of the biggest things I am thinking about in light of fierce competition is differentiation, is thinking about, how do you find that unique angle to cut through the noise in the sea of sameness? And so such valuable tips today. Julie, we've got your class linked up, but for people that want to check you out, tell us about different resources you have. If anybody wants to check out your book, tell us about what we'll learn in there and what you have going on.
Yeah, absolutely. So I tend to hang out the most on Instagram. So you can find me at Jules, Juls Solomon, Solomon for that. I'm in my DMs. I have a really fun broadcast channel there. It's super fun. I did have a book come out back in 2022 titled Get What You Want, How to Go From Unseen to Unstoppable. So it really shares my own journey along with a ton of tips about how to do just that, going from unseen to unstoppable. There's actually a whole chapter on pitching and landing brand deals if you want to dive into that. And I share a really awesome story about how I landed a $250,000 brand partnership when I had less than 10,000 followers. So that's a fun, we should have a different conversation about that one. And then juliesolomon.net is my website where you can learn more about my offers and what I do there. And then of course my podcast, the Influencer Podcast. We have been dropping an episode every week since 2017. Can't believe that. We're almost up on our anniversary, and we're going to keep just supporting our community in a free form that way. So you can find me there at the Influencer Podcast.
Julie, appreciate you so much. I'm so grateful. You've added an insane amount of value today, and I'm excited. Think Media Podcast to implement. It's time to take action on this. And so go pitch your next brand deal or your first brand deal. And if you want help, check out that class for some additional step-by-step advice, frameworks, diagrams, all of that stuff that Julie's put together. You can check that out in the show notes as well as her book and her resources. My name is Sean Cannell, your guide to building a profitable YouTube channel. This is the Think Media Podcast, and I can't wait to connect with you in the next one.
Liberty Mutual is all she talks about since we saved hundreds by bundling our home and auto insurance.
It's pronounced Biberty. Liberty. Nice try, kid. Only pay for what you need.
Liberty, liberty, liberty.
Liberty.
Save your groceries for the love of food. Ziploc.
99% of people are self-sabotaging their YouTube videos, and they don't even know it. The ultimate formula for business is know, like, and trust. And this is true for YouTube as well. So the question is, how do you build trust in your content? What are the mistakes you could be making that's actually hurting trust? And what is the ultimate key to not just getting a viewer or a subscriber, but to connecting with someone and creating a raving fan? And this episode of the Think Media Podcast, we're going to be discovering the 5 elements of trust from Dr. Henry Cloud's book. And we're going to see how those apply to writing YouTube scripts, building our businesses, our marketing messaging overall. And this is a super practical episode that you'll be able to apply immediately. So let's dive in. Today's episode of the Think Media Podcast is brought to you by VRApodcast.com. Once a year, we do a special sale on our signature program called Video Ranking Academy, and that's at VRApodcast.com, but I'll tell you a little bit more about that later. All right, now let's dive into the 5 elements of trust and talk about how these are directly relevant to every YouTube video we make and really every action we take in our businesses. The elements are number 1, understanding, number 2, motive, number 3, ability, number 4, character, and number 5, track record. Now we're going to go through each one practically, but let me ask you a question. Have you ever turned on a video and watched somebody communicating, saw a certain video, maybe a public speaker, maybe somebody communicating any kind of message, and there was some reason you didn't quite trust them? Maybe they were saying the right things, but you felt a distance, you had your radar up, something seemed off. Well, why is that? And how do we fix that? Have you ever turned on a video and maybe you didn't know why, but you found, wow, I'm really connecting with this creator. I'm starting to really trust them. And I don't know what it is about what they're doing. Well, there's actually a science to trust. And if we're intentional to include these elements in our videos will not just perform better, but the bigger vision of what you're trying to build with YouTube, the bigger online business that you're trying to build will do better because people do business with people they know, like, and trust. They first got to know you, and that's why you should subscribe to the podcast to get discovered, get your videos clicked on, keep people watching, grow your channel. They got to just discover you. You need the actual impression. Do they even know you exist? Then they got to decide if they like you, some first impressions, add some value. You're making a little bit of connection at the like stage. But if someone's ever going to trust you, maybe the affiliate program you're talking about, the affiliate product, your own product, doing business with you, hiring you for a service, hiring you as a freelancer, if they're going to go all the way there, well, what can we do to accelerate and help people arrive at that destination? What can we do to communicate better and make that connection of trust, and what could be hurting us? Well, let's start with number 1, understanding. So here's what understanding means. You can trust someone when you feel your needs are understood, felt, and cared about. They get you and they understand what makes you feel good. They have taken the time to listen. This is the law of empathy. The foundational aspect of trust is understanding the needs, feelings, and desires of the other person, highlighting the importance of being mirrored. So you might be wondering, well, how could I possibly listen to the audience when I'm making a one-way YouTube video? And I would challenge you, this foundational principle is what separates mediocre and great content creators. Because we've said it this way, the creator who understands the viewer best wins. So let me ask you, do the people watching your content feel understood? Well, Sean, how would I know that they do? Well, one of the ways would be the language you use, the empathy you express. If someone's watching your video and you are able to communicate, I can relate to what you've gone through because I've been where you are. The word choice you use and even the topics you talk about could express you being able to understand your audience. In fact, people who build huge audiences and have huge followings, the people who really follow them at a raving fan level, oftentimes feel this person gets me, they understand me. Well, that's not by accident. That individual, because of their past experiences and the way they're communicating. So what are some ways that you could actually include this in a video script? One of my favorite ways is using the word frustrating. You would say, do you want to accomplish this desire? Are you interested in reaching this goal? You know, it's frustrating when you're not reaching it and when you have this setback and that setback. And if you tap into maybe where you are a few years ago in your journey, what were those frustrating points? By articulating the pain points and the problems and the frustrations of the viewer, you are creating a connection where they're like, oh man, this person understands where I am. And this is foundational. So before you display your expertise and before you share your amazing answers and before you do all these other things, the foundational element of trust is understanding. Another language you could include in your script is, do you want to reach this goal? Do you want to achieve this ambition? Do you want to solve this problem? You know, it feels overwhelming trying to raise a child for the first time. I've been there, I can relate. So you can intentionally include the understanding element in your video script. It's scary when you can't get business funding when you need to make payroll. Maybe you have a loan product. So you're using language that is relating to what the audience could feel. You can trust someone when you feel that your needs are understood, felt, and cared about. So what is your target audience's needs? What is your ideal audience that the content you're creating for? Where do they feel misunderstood? Don't we like the political candidates and the people running for office that we feel like can understand us the best? A lot of people are frustrated and have tension in life because they feel like nobody understands me. I'm misunderstood. I'll apply each of these elements to my personal niche, which is helping you with YouTube. And so I try to communicate elements of understanding, being like, listen, I understand I have a team today, but I've been where you are. I've had to shoot the video and edit the video and do all the steps all by myself. It's felt lonely. It's felt discouraging. And sometimes I wanted to quit, but I was reminded that YouTube is worth it. And on the other side of ranking videos and building your channel is passive income and freedom. So don't quit. Maybe you've experienced some of these things at Think Media. I'm doing my best to include understanding, and this challenges us to continue to read the comments, to, if possible, talk to your target audience, meaning like literally call them or try to get them on the phone or get them on a Zoom call, because the creator who understands the viewer best wins. It's going to inform your topics. It's going to inform your titles when you're using language that they understand. And when you continue to listen, and you can listen on the internet, you can listen to big data, big groups of people, surveys on your YouTube community tab. You can talk to individuals. And when you come from this place of empathy and have a detailed understanding of the needs and the feelings and the desires of the person that you're going to want to help, you've just laid the strongest foundation possible for building trust. The last part, and we already touched it, is that if you can relate to your audience. So I want to encourage you, the person you're most powerfully positioned to help is the person you were yesterday or last year. And so one of the things you can tap into is trying to go back and remember, how did it feel for you when you were in debt and overwhelmed or discouraged or overweight or whatever it is your YouTube channel helps people with? By taking time to just weave in an element of I can relate. And sometimes saying I can relate can feel condescending. So there's kind of an art form to it. You're not like, it's not like the person born with a silver spoon being like, I can relate to the struggle. If there's dissonance and there's not truth there and authenticity there, it doesn't work. But hopefully you're building your YouTube channel around a problem you've solved, around a result you've achieved, around something you're passionate about, you've put the time in. So you can relate to having equal fandom for that particular game or that particular subculture and niche, all of those things. Number one, understanding. Nobody even talks about this, but if you can help the audience feel understood and seen and cared about in your videos, then you're going to have an unfair advantage, which brings us to number two, which is motive. Their motive is for you, not just themselves. The person communicating, this is what the viewer wants. They want the motive to be for you and not just for themselves. That means that they have your back. They will do nothing to harm you. They want the best for you. And even at times, they are willing to experience their own loss or cost and having a genuine care for others' well-being. Think about that, how that applies to the internet. How many people on the internet or on YouTube do you think that their motive is for you, not just themselves? That they truly have your back, that you will do nothing to harm them. Now, mind you, we have to build all five of these to have trust. You're probably already seeing how powerful this is. You're being like, this is why I don't trust my partner. This is why I don't trust my boyfriend or girl. Like, this is why I don't trust. Like, I don't even think they have my best interest in mind. But you can see, keeping it in that YouTube vertical, okay, so how can you communicate your motive in video? There's something powerful about, of course, we want to trust somebody, where we all know, I think, that someone creating content, a business owner, of course, part of their motive is to make money, is to sell a product, is to get you to click on a link, so like motive is not just altruistic, like it's just pure, like there's a business aspect to creating content or anything. But the key here is their motive is for you, not just themselves. So my personal example for this is oftentimes when we're talking about maybe products we have for sale at Think Media, I'll say, and listen, like, I like to be really transparent. It's like, and listen, we are a business and we do make money selling books or selling online courses. But I want you to understand our mission here is to help you win on YouTube. And we are committed to that process. Here's some of the ways we back it up. The amount of staff we hire and faculty we hire that supports you in private groups. Like, we will not do anything to harm you as far as it depends on us. And we want what's best for you and we have your back. And we understand that premium online courses or high quality books that took years to write and decades to learn, that it's a value exchange. So if money's being exchanged, we just want you to get more value than you paid for. That if you pay $10 for a book, you're getting thousands or hundreds of dollars of value in exchange. And so what's the motive? And people can sense your motive in how you're communicating, but also if you can help people understand what your motive is by weaving that into your script. In some cases, maybe you aren't selling anything, but if somebody can truly feel through your content that your YouTube channel is about helping them get a result, helping people, serving people, if that's the priority. And so how can you, in your next video, communicate your motive? Because if viewers don't trust your motive, they're not going to trust you at all. And I think there's some inner work to be done. You might be challenged by this question and say, actually, when I think about my motive, it's actually kind of selfish. Like, I don't even care about the viewer. I just care about money. So then you have the opportunity to change your motive. I know that for me, this is a continual work. I think, okay, is my calendar and my priorities and the way we're staffing and the way that we're investing money and the way we're creating content and the actions that we're doing, we are for sure optimizing to make profit in the business. So this is why we wrote down core values, like, purpose driven, like the Bible is our blueprint, like love above all, because it then reminds me, like, let's keep our motive on track. Of course, we've got practical business results, but let's make sure not just me now, but our entire team is thinking about this. Like, this is not just about us. This is about helping you win. And one of the ways you could say this is, and here's my goal. And the goal of this channel, the goal of this business, and here's the goal. We've created an incredible product that solves this problem. And my goal is that you would love it so much, you would subscribe, you would enter your credit card information, you would because it would be a win-win. That's the goal. And that's going to be the ultimate sales message, right? If you can create a win-win-win-win-win. People love the product, you get money, you can support your business, yourself, your team, and they love it and everybody wins. And so it's knowing what is in it for you and what is in it for me. And my belief is that your income is directly correlated to the amount of value that you give to the marketplace. And so that as business owners, as creators in the creator economy, building online businesses, this is an important mindset and belief to have, because you're going to make enough money if you deliver enough value. I actually believe it's kind of a law of the universe that if you deliver enough value in a video and the video is well made and well positioned, it will get lots of views and then YouTube will pay you. And if you deliver a lot of video value in your free content, then people will be like, wow, this person is legit. I can see that they can get me actual results. I'm sure their paid content is pretty good. And even if their paid content is backed by like a crazy satisfaction guarantee, I see that they've removed all risk. I really could see that they're doing their best to like put me as the priority. They're here to help me win. Number two is motive. So if you want to build trust brick by brick, number one, how can you articulate and weave into your content that you understand the feelings and the needs and the desires of the other person? How can you communicate your motive? And that's a question. I think just being aware of what's going through viewers' minds, whether consciously or unconsciously, the skepticism of today's viewer is saying, has this person even taken the time to understand me? What is this person's motive? Are they purely for themselves, or what's in it for me? What's in it for them? Which brings us to number 3, and that's ability. What does this mean? Ability or capacity to guard and or deliver what you trust with them. You know, a spouse would say, does this person have the ability to guard my secrets? You know, somebody who is known, you shared something private with them and then they told everybody, you're like, they don't have the ability to guard this information. The opposite is also deliver on what you trust with them. This would include skills. So are they able to actually pull it off? Like, for example, what we learn is that trust can exist in some areas and not in other areas. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Meaning, I trust a gardener to do well with my garden, but I don't necessarily trust that person to fix my car. And that's not a bad thing. I know, based on the legacy and the testimonials and the history that, and the way the gardener is positioned, that that's their area of expertise. So if I understand that this gardener understands my pain points and what I want my yard and my garden to look like, and then I understand that their motive is, yes, they need to get paid, they're in business, but they like really want to help me win and they have my back and they're so obsessed with making my garden or my yard awesome, and then they have the ability to fulfill on it, then these are building blocks of trust. The opposite side, right, would be you might have massive credibility in one area and you have people who trust you and have a reason to put their trust in you in one area and not in another. And that's not even an ethical thing. It's a skill set thing. So that's what ability means. So how do we weave this into our scripts and our videos? Do you have any artifacts that demonstrate your ability? I mean, and at YouTube, I teach YouTube, right? Think Media teaches YouTube. I think now we have 3 silver play buttons. Think Media Podcast, Video Influencers, Sean Cannell, silver play buttons, and then a gold play button for Think Media. That's 4 personal channels. We've got a Monday.com board and all kinds of pictures on our success wall of students that have gotten those same results, which those would be artifacts in both cases. They'd be artifacts that I've personally been able to get some results on YouTube, and that I'm able to help other people get results on YouTube. And those are a visual element. So one of the things you could include in videos is, do you have an award, or do you have decor, or do you have artifacts like physical objects that demonstrate your ability? If you don't, that's fine. Is there other ways you could show your results? So to accelerate trust as a business owner, as a content creator, as somebody who's creating maybe free content that you hope leads to your products, services, your agency, you need to demonstrate your ability, and you can accelerate trust. By the way, when you apply all 5 of these tips, what maybe used to take weeks or months for someone to build trust can now be happening on the internet on autopilot if you're making the right videos and including the right elements. By the way, if you do the opposite of these things, you could be hurting trust or just missing elements of your video that are so important. So again, make sure to listen until the end of this episode, because we still have so much more to cover, and each of these builds on one another. So if you weave into your content, even as you storytell, and maybe you're illustrating a point, can you share an example of somebody else you've helped achieve a result? Also, creating interest for the viewer, it kind of reminds me. So I talk about Mary a lot. This reminds me of Mary from Mary's Nest. She joined our program, Video Ranking Academy, when she was 60. She was afraid to get on camera, didn't know how to make videos, didn't know how to turn a camera on, was super nervous, and didn't know where to start. But as she followed our 7R system, she began to implement those tips, and today she's about to hit 1 million subscribers. She has a book deal from Random House. She's ranked videos. She's created passive income. And when I tell the story too, I'll talk, there's all kinds of powerful aspects of it. It could be she lives in different regions. She's a cooking channel. So certain case studies build trust in certain areas, because you might go, okay, you can help a cooking channel. You could help someone like Mary, but can you help a real estate agent? So depending on the environment that you're communicating and who you're communicating to, the case studies you share, the examples you share, should reinforce the trust you're trying to build with a particular type of person. And of course, you have to use all of these. You don't have to, but our recommendation is that you use them with honesty, transparency, and ethically, meaning like if I had never actually helped someone in real estate, it would be an overreach if I said, I can help you with YouTube and real estate. But I have in that particular case. So I probably wouldn't tell them Mary's Nest story on a video with real estate tips. I wouldn't. I would talk about Levi Lassick, read YouTube Secrets, and in 18 months did 90 million top line revenue with 3 million real estate commissions from implementing those tips. So that would demonstrate ability. And one of the other ways to demonstrate ability is demonstrate that you can help people by actually helping people. Wow, it's pretty profound. But no, I'm serious. Like, one of the cool things about free YouTube videos, especially if eventually you want someone to do something else with you, is that whether you have case studies or silver play buttons or gold play buttons or not, if by following what you teach, share, and educate in your YouTube video, people apply it and they go, oh my gosh, it works. You know how much trust was built right there? How much acceleration of trust? They go, okay. They go, one, this person understood my pain point because they just solved it. Two, their motive is clearly to help me because they just helped me. And then three, they have the ability to help me because they just helped me. So sometimes what could be broken in your business is the fact that your content or your free content or that your solutions are inferior at this point. And maybe that's a hard pill to swallow, but just meaning if you want people to trust that you have the ability to help them, then actually help them. And in the creator economy, you do this at the beginning for free, which is also really wild. That's kind of a new concept. Some people, maybe even more modernly, the pendulum has swung and there's like entitlement because like everything is free on YouTube. But like, you think about it, like literally think about what's free on YouTube. And when people start to see, man, you can actually help me, man, trust is built. And so that is ability. Let's go to number 4. And if you're watching on the YouTube version, please smash like. Give me some feedback in the comments. And then, of course, on audio, it always means the world if you can rate and review the podcast. And no joke, like if you just take a second to leave a review on Apple Podcast, it really helps us over there as well, as this is an audio and a video podcast. But number 4 is character. Number 4 is character. This one's interesting. So character or personal makeup, character is the personal details, personal makeup of someone that allows you to trust them. Now, what Dr. Henry Cloud in the book Trust breaks down here is that there's 2 aspects to character. There's the permission to play traits, but those are just the basics. And then there's the specific traits needed for the area with which you're going to trust somebody. Here's the difference. If we limit character to saying the person won't lie, cheat, or steal, that's not enough. That's foundational because that should be permission to play. Like it shouldn't be bragging if you're like, you know, one of the coolest things about our company is like we're honest. And it maybe in today's world it's like, whoa, are you serious? Like the last 9 companies that were, but like of course, honesty and integrity and like not lying or cheating should be foundational. But he brings up something so powerful in the book. And by the way, we'll link this up in the show notes as we do. But this book is, I really think, essential reading. We're pulling out just this very obscure vertical of writing a YouTube script, weaving this into your business and your sales messaging. This will improve your relationships, improve you as a leader, help you better understand how to rebuild trust. There's obviously a lot of stuff we can't cover. Have you ever wondered why you go, you know, I don't really trust that person? Maybe you're talking and it's in your workplace, or maybe you work with your spouse and you think about somebody you're in a relationship with and you're like, I don't really trust them. And then you go through a filter and you're like, do I think they would lie or steal money from me? And you're like, no, I don't think they would ever lie. I don't think they would steal. I think they're honest. So then it's like, why would I not trust them? And it's because the specific traits for the area you need to trust them are not there. For example, maybe you're around somebody who's easily angered. Their emotions get the better of them. That's not lying, that's not stealing, but it shows that their emotional stability is insufficient for certain scenarios. So you don't put them in those scenarios. If you need somebody who's stoic and emotionally stable in for the scenario that you need to trust the person in, then that's the wrong person. And it's not a bad thing, but you're like, oh, okay, I get it. Now I get why, like, I don't trust that person. So how could this apply to our videos? Well, as we are putting out all of our messaging, you're posting YouTube shorts, long form videos on social media, you are communicating your character in as much as people can see that public persona that you're putting out there. And I hope they would see your honesty and integrity. Your messaging should be consistent across all touch points. Like, you know, for us, if we have different promotions that we do for some of our programs, and they have deadlines, and the pricing and the bonus combination and the details of what's in that offer does end. One of the things that makes me uncomfortable is sometimes when people do web classes, they have like fake chat. I don't know if you've ever been on one of these, and they have like fake, literally like fake bots, and you're like, this isn't even a real conversation. And they just do these, those are some honesty, integrity things. And these little touch points can erode your trust in that person's character. But then as you work with or watch a creator more deeply, you might want to trust, let's say, them to be stable. How about being consistent? Like, being inconsistent on YouTube is not an ethical problem. Like, you're not like, oh, wow, he stopped posting, he's evil. You know what I mean? Like, she stopped posting, she's evil. No, she's probably honest and full of integrity and full of character, but I can't trust them. So are you being consistent because you made a promise with your content, with your channel, with your video podcast, and you show up and you deliver? Think Media Podcast comes out Tuesday and Thursday. Count on it. Like, we're delivering. If the schedule changes, please forgive us. But like, ultimately, then that builds character, builds trust. The consistency of this podcast builds trust. Whether or not you're like, I don't think Sean would cheat, lie, or steal, but I need other character traits like consistency.
Oxy boost. That is so true.
The most powerful clean in any universe.
Yeah, that's better.
See Marvel Studios Thunderbolts.
You probably know Vistaprint for business cards, but did you know we print everything you need to brand your business? We print banners and signs that help you stand out, and must-have merch like tote bags, t-shirts, and hoodies. Right now, new customers can get 20% off with code NEW20, because if you need it, we print it at Vistaprint.com.
Are you texting? I'm shopping for a car on CarMax. A car?
Are you sure you can afford that?
That's a big purchase.
Relax. I got pre-qualified and shopped by my monthly budget, so I know it's a good decision. Unlike Jenny's new piercing.
Jerusalem.
The world is changing, and Jesus offers a vision to redeem it.
He's not the Messiah!
He is the one.
Need other character traits like consistency. If you're going to trust, if I promote certain values, I have certain values where I actually encourage our team. Our number one core value at our business is the Bible is our blueprint, that there is a higher authority than my opinion or somebody else's opinion to how I conduct myself. So I don't want to gossip or be divisive or disrespect people's boundaries or go into anger or create drama or just do different things that would be outside of the character that I aspire to. Again, not necessarily right or wrong, but think about how you could include that in your videos. And the question for you is, are you getting the trust and the respect that you want with your YouTube content? And if you take a hard look at your consistency, you know, you might make a statement like the number one YouTube channel on the internet that solves this problem, the best content that solves this problem. Subscribe because we are committed. Those are good promises to make. But then the hard part is, can you back it up? And are you slacking a little bit? Are you putting out C-level content when you know you could do B+, A+ level content? You used to research 5 and 10 hours in your videos. Now you wing it. That, again, is maybe reasonable, but I'm not going to trust you. And the trust of the super fans and raving fans you want to build could be eroding. And so that is character. And then number 5, track record. Track record. The track record is performing in the way that you trust them to perform over time. If the track record is broken, it's hard to rebuild. And behavior builds expectation. So it delivers on a promise. You won't depend on someone based on the last break of trust. So this again puts pressure on us as content creators. Number 1, how can I communicate my track record? So if you say, I've been in business, and over the last 16 years on YouTube. So think about how that applies to you. That's what I say. I mean, at least it shows a little bit of history and legacy on the platform. I've been doing video for 20 years, YouTube for 16. It's going to be track record. It might also apply to ability. Now, it also might not, because just because you've been doing something for 16 years doesn't actually mean you're good at it. Some people are like, I have 10 years of experience. And it's like, no, you don't. You have 1 year of experience repeated 10 times. Like, if you're not learning, improving, and getting better, then it doesn't necessarily mean your track record can deliver. However, your track record is how you build a brand. Your track record is how you build trust. It's one thing to be like, okay, he got lucky once. It's one thing to be like, she had one good video. It's another thing to say like, oh man, never misses, man. She consistently delivers. Man, they're good for it. By the way, again, one of the reasons that we encourage you to eventually package what you know into a product for many in the creator economy, and especially in the education vertical of content creation, which many of the Think Media podcast community is in, right? We have entertainers as well, but a lot of us, right, are doing that education side of things. So it's incredibly relevant that you would someday make an online course and join the e-learning industry. But here's the pressure. Is we would never encourage you to just like put out some mediocre product, to just rush that, to just do it as a cash grab, to not deeply care about what you build and the time you put in making something that's great. And by the way, whether that's our opinion or not, the results will show when the instant you finally offer something to your audience and they join it and they're like, this isn't good, then why would they want to join other things? The reverse is true. If whatever you put out there, when you package something premium, if they go, holy goodness, this thing's amazing, you actually have built trust, track record. So if you offer something else, they might not need and probably don't need any explanation. Why? Because of trust. Because at that point, they're like, okay, this person clearly understood me. Their motive is for me because they got me the results. They had the ability to do it because I lived the results. I love the product. I love the experience. I love the video. I love the program. I love the Discord group. I love the paid community. I love the mastermind. I love the event. Their character in this vertical, like I'm not hiring this person for marriage counseling. Yes, like they maybe aren't great at relationships and they've been through divorce and some other things, and I didn't hire them for marriage advice. I hired them for business advice. So it's like character in a particular vertical. They're like they have proven to get results in this area. I didn't hire them to learn about empathy and love because they don't have that, but I hired them because they're really good at systems. So character in that vertical, and then track record, they have a history of doing it over time. And so practically, as we summarize, if you're writing out a YouTube script, if you're creating a sales message or a sales video, if even on YouTube you're thinking about this video as a real estate agent, loan officer, as somebody that has an agency or does freelance work and wants to be hired, can you see now how you actually could, being aware of these 5 elements, include these in your next video? Hey, listen, I get it. I get what you're going to. I know that's frustrating and I've been there and I can relate. That's the understanding. Our mission here is to help 1 million purpose-driven people create a full-time living doing what they love while making a difference with YouTube. And we have different products and programs and different ways you can engage with us depending on your budget. But we're here to serve you. We're here to help you win. That's the motive, And then, over the past 16 years on YouTube, I've built multiple YouTube channels. I've helped different people. And it's not just I that have done it, because actually one of the biggest things people doubt is not your ability to do it. They just found you on the internet. They discovered you can pull it off. They're helpful. They're glad you're sharing tips, but the greater area of self-doubt is in the individual, not that there is skepticism perhaps of your results. So if you're backing up your results with receipts and proof and screenshots, it's helpful. But one of the most powerful things you could do with ability is demonstrate your ability, if you're an educator, that you have gotten results for other people that are just like them. And because then that's actually what's relatable. And so can you weave in demonstrating your ability with some cases?